tiny people, then we play with them. Woo, woo. We paint tiny people, then we play with them.
Hello and welcome to Miniatures Monthly episode 19. My name is Chris Thurston and tonight I'm joined by Tom Senior.
Welcome to October.
October, is it though?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, when this goes up, it'll still be October.
What I mean is that opinions have been divided in the land of shouting at Games Workshop on whether or not the slate of offerings thus far delivered qualifies as October or more like an Orc Night.
I see. So people wanted a full range of orcs on foot, and they've received a range of amazing orcs in cars.
Indeed. I think I feel like sometimes we're getting straight into the news, I guess, but like I feel like sometimes Games Workshop is getting used to like how to best use their new kind of talking about stuff and talking
Social
to the
reach.
community, social reach. The fact that they have built a much more positive rapport with the community than they used to. Sometimes leads them to sort of say like, it's happening everybody, but it's sort of not to the extent that people's imaginations are capable of carrying them.
Yes.
I suspect that Orctober, which if you're not aware is the promised kind of renaissance for big green men in Warhammer 40,000, may be the new buggies and a codex. And that's good. The buggies are very nice.
They're really cool.
But I think people were expecting literally the entire range to get a refresh. Because it had been so long in the works that they've had their time to get expectations all the way to the top.
Some of the oldest sort of plastic 40k miniatures that you could buy, apart from maybe like Eldar Guardians or something. But even then, I think the old Orc models are older.
Yeah.
This reminds me a little bit of Malign Portents.
I was about to say that, yeah.
It's that same thing of like really good job of hyping it up and getting people excited. And then perhaps, you know, you could, sometimes it's good to temper expectations a little bit so that people could enjoy the actual products that are going out. And the new Orc bogies are really cool.
They're great.
And really funny, just an awesome sense of humor. They've got like cannons that fire squigs, and some of them are manned by squigs, looking into sights and shooting their own mates.
Why are they allowed to drive?
And all that stuff is great. And I love the Mad Max vibe but it's sort of 40k Mad Max where the cars are just kind of 50s dragsters and just like, you know, crazy rocket cars and that kind of stuff. It's going to be so colourful. I can't wait to see what people do to convert them and turn them into, you know, sort of specialist themed armies and that kind of thing.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It is genuinely all rad stuff. It's just that, I was kind of amused by how deep into October we have gotten, in order for the arrival of orcs to occur.
It's true. And it feels as though they don't have like many models to be revealed for the rest of October. So you're right. We're halfway through. So it's like half an October, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting because, I mean, like, it feels like the rate of new stuff is now so high that it's quite difficult to do news on our monthly podcast. It was always sort of difficult. Like, we'd always try and be playing catch up. But like, when we last did a podcast in mid-September, X-Wing 2.0 had just come out and a lot of stuff was on the horizon. In the time since, there has been and will be like a whole slate of expansions for Kill Team, like loads of them, including the kind of...
the rate of output for Kill Team is insane.
Which one of the things that's taken over the first part of October is the Commanders expansion, which is coming, loads of new box sets for it. There has been Nightvault, Shadespire Season 2, which we'll get to talking about. That's come out. Not only that was immediately followed by its first round of expansions. So there are now 4 new warbands and a new card expansion and loads of new stuff. And it's definitely sort of like arriving so quickly now that it's kind of impossible to keep. This is just within the Games Workshop part of the hobby as well, like kind of impossible to keep track of.
That's really true. And here's an interesting bit of news. So the last couple of years, Games Workshop's shares have increased by 660% in value.
Yeah. And
they are, like, by some metrics, the fastest growing British company. I mean,
I love this.
You know,
not just because I like the hobby and I'm excited to see what they can do with more resources, but because, you know, like, this isn't necessarily the narrative of the British economy. And I love, like, what are our homegrown industries, Tom? Where is our manufacturing? Where is our production in this country? Well, it's Warhammer, isn't it?
It's one place in Nottingham.
Yeah, exactly.
A big old series of buildings on top of, you know, a plastic mold factory.
Exactly.
And I mean, maybe it's a reflection on the British economy's wider failures in manufacturing and inability to, outstrip a company that makes tiny plastic men. But it's also about a very specific generation of people coming back to the hobby, entering a certain phase of their life where they have the freedom and time and money to reinvest, and GW being there to catch them.
I would go deeper than that. I think the broader economic struggles of the country, which is a great topic to get into at the top of Minis Monthly, have probably benefited Games Workshop in a lot of different ways.
So a kind of escapist impulse.
So I'll put it this way, right? We're men in our early 30s.
Yes.
Right? How long do you think it will take in your life before you can afford either of these things? A home that you own or children?
Well, quite.
You're probably not going to get either of those things, Tom. And you're never going to retire. But you can have a Land Raider.
Yeah. I've got my own plastic children.
Exactly. My 1,000 plastic sons.
Exactly.
So that's, it's stepping in to fill a gap, a generational gap, I think, as millennials become 30-year-old people with disposable income.
But I do think there is a rise in sort of local physical social activities that don't revolve around just booze or being in a cinema or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, board games are having a resurgence. Obviously, pen and paper role playing is having a resurgence. Yeah. And, war games seem to be enjoying that as well. It's just an interesting shift back from, where people are so involved in the internet and, their online lives. You get to pull back and just have a nice experience in your garage or in your front.
Yeah, I think there's a genuine hunger for things that you own. I genuinely think that's probably benefited Games Workshop, right?
Well.
You tend to rent most of the things that you enjoy day to day, whether that's TV or whether it's your phone or whether it's, probably the vast majority of things you do for entertainment. Collecting stuff is a pretty deeply set kind of, itch to scratch. And I think that wargaming and hobby stuff scratches that as well. I've been asked a couple of times in different contexts, why, because if people aren't aware, I do a lot of consultancy and things. And for example, in things like esports where companies are interested in investing some money into this new thing. And now some of that attention, it's been interesting to watch, is shifting towards tabletop. It is almost the new thing. Because I say new, but obviously, kind of drawing attention from companies that it certainly wouldn't have done a couple of years ago.
Yeah, sure.
And that's because, there's, it's where attention is shifting and people want to know why. They can't necessarily explain it. And it's why you end up with these amazing, articles in the business part of The Guardian, for example, trying to explain why Warhammer is the only successful thing on the British high street. People want to order food from someone who rides a bike up a hill, but they will go out to buy a Space Marine.
Yeah.
It's baffling, but kind of wonderful. It'd be kind of sweet and wonderful if it wasn't against the backdrop of kind of like a sort of much scarier malaise.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. But nonetheless good for GW, I suppose. But actually it's worth stressing everybody's doing well out of this. I suspect one of the reasons that there's been this sort of great reclaiming of licenses, Games Workshop at one point shared the Warhammer license with Fantasy Flight, who made card games like Warhammer Conquest. Similarly, Wizards of the Coast shared some of its properties with Fantasy Flight. It seemed like a lot of companies shared their stuff with Fantasy Flight, basically, but all of those licenses have been kind of withdrawn from Netrunner to Warhammer. And I suspect one of the reasons for that is a couple of years ago, all of those companies kind of had to work together because the entire industry was struggling. And now they're all doing well. D&D is doing amazingly well. Obviously, Fantasy Flight has X-Wing and Game of Thrones card game and all of this stuff. Fantasy Flight is the best licenses in the world.
Yeah.
And Games Workshop is doing spectacularly well. So sort of all around in the US and in the UK and in Europe more broadly, these companies are doing better and better and kind of shoring up kind of their own stockades in a way that wasn't necessary or even advisable a couple of years ago.
It does seem that there was a lag in some of these companies' ability to take advantage of the internet. And what we've seen, particularly with D&D, is the internet driving huge amounts of demand through podcasts, is a big part of D&D's resurgence, surely, because so many kind of great comedy podcasts like Taz and loads of others have come up and encourage people to start trying that. And D&D, I don't think they set out to make that happen.
No.
But through serendipity, that has made it cool again, made it fun again for an entire new generation of people. Whereas GW have had to kind of go out and do that themselves. And they only started doing that 3 years ago. And so they have to be applauded for actually getting out there onto the internet, creating the Warhammer community, creating, the community site, Twitch stream, all the stuff that it's very hard to just go into that cold. And they've tried really hard and it has paid off, it seems like.
Yeah.
And also they're just making so much stuff. It's just, as you say, we can't keep up with it.
Yeah.
But each little bit seems to be finding its audience somewhere. I think one of the most successful packages they've put together is Kill Team, actually. I've not dipped into Kill Team yet, but I look at those boxes and I think, wow, I could just pay 30 quid and have just loads of hobby pleasure out of that and take it down to the local GW store, play a game for 90 minutes. Like, it just seems really flexible. It seems like they've hit a real sweet spot with that package.
It feels like it took them a few goes. Like, I think Necromunda's been successful, but is a bit more niche in some ways. And obviously I think Shadow War, as we said in the podcast before, was sort of like
sent out to die.
Exactly. But Kill Team, I think, has really nailed it. And I think that's like, I think, I'm fascinated by October because I really like, probably the biggest hobby gap for me is I don't give a fuck about orcs at all, like from Games Workshop. I like goblins, which we'll get to, but but orcs themselves I've never really hugely cared about. Like, they're sort of like, I don't like find the joke of orcs hilarious. So there's like a limited degree to which I hugely care. Yeah. If that makes sense. Yeah. I find Chaos Space Marines funnier for some reason. So October was never like a big deal for me, but I think it's really fascinating in terms of it's sort of, if you're not aware, then there has been a lot of very public moaning about it this month already on social media because people really did take those promises very seriously. And I think it stems from a kind of a belief that, in a sort of old model of doing these sort of massive army updates that then sort of like, it is it for a while rather than what seems to be happening, which is because simply more stuff is happening. There's sort of like a trickle of things, like stuff kind of creeps in to the game from different angles. And, you can't just expect sort of, Games Workshop specifically anymore to simply be doing one thing at a time. So, this month has been Nightvault and Kill Team as much, if not more than October, which is sort of coming because of Speed Freaks and the other stuff that's happening.
Yeah.
And I think maybe it'll take people a while to adjust from one mode of sort of like massive updates that are then it for 5 years to a kind of steadier stream of stuff, sort of more evenly spread across multiple game systems and things like that.
It seems as though KillTube has been more supported by the physical stores than, so Shadespire, for example, seems to be a purely online property at this point.
It is, yeah.
But
Nightvault isn't, but yes.
Okay, so that makes sense. So second editions, they'll probably stock the boxes for that.
I suspect it'll be, so from what I understand from talking to people who work in Games Workshop retail, with games like this that aren't the big two, so AOS and 40k, there's a desire to kind of stock them for a while. So, Lord of the Rings will be in stores probably just through Christmas and out the other side, but probably not post Christmas because they'll probably do quite well at Christmas. Similarly, Nightvault will probably be around until like early next year and then it'll vanish from stores again. And so like the first half of the Nightvault expansions will probably be brought out in the stores and then the second half will be mail order.
Oh, that's cool. But it sounds as though, from your experiences with our local GW, Chris, that, Kill Team has been particularly well supported in terms of just games in store. They've had terrain set up for it and stuff. Yeah,
there's terrain, there's a campaign, which I've been playing in. And it's really good because I've, after, I'm trying to think if there's any news we should get to, but maybe there is, but like broadly speaking, like I've had quite a busy hobby month, but in quite an eclectic way. Like normally I would think of a busy month as being like, painting some stuff and then playing like one big game against you, for example. Whereas this month I have played X-Wing, I've played AOS, I've played a bunch of Nightvault, I've played a lot of Kill Team, and that's like a lot more individual things than I think I've done in any month that we've been doing this podcast. Yeah. I think for that reason, at the top of the order, it's worth saying this is probably going to be a slightly different structure to how we've done the podcast for at least the last year, because you and I have played all of those things apart from Kill Team.
Yeah.
And so like, it doesn't really make sense to do like one big battle report. It's more like talking through a much more kind of like, like eclectic month. And similarly, now I have like a backpack that's basically just my hobby bag. And because sometimes if work allows, because I work for myself, I can kind of get out in the afternoon, go down to the store and play something. And that bag has enough stuff in it to play Nightvault or Kill Team. And you can almost always get a game of one of those things. And that's a really nice position to be in.
Yeah,
like it's one bag with just a few models in it and be able to play a bunch of different things.
Yeah. That's the really appealing thing about, Kill Team to me is that, and also I speak to people who are otherwise not interested in GW as a hobby.
Yeah.
That are tempted by Kill Team because it's like 6 models and a lot of them are quite easy to paint actually. Like get some Necrons together, you can get some Space Marines together. Like there are quick ways of doing those armies.
Yeah.
And also just the 3x3 play surface. So it is 3x3, right?
It adapts really well to like different sizes, but it's probably no big, it's about 2.5 by 2.5 really.
Yeah.
Like it's small.
But there was some like vertical terrain.
Yeah.
Hopefully, that will kind of push the battlefield upwards a little bit. And that is like a manageable thing. And I think we've both struggled with the fact that 6x4 in British homes is not an easy surface to necessarily find unless you've got a garage and like, a load of space.
Yeah,
to
like
put a big table.
it took me getting an expanding IKEA table, but that even wasn't wide enough. And then a rigid board that could overlap, hang the edges.
Yes,
and now we can do it, but you're right. It's a pain in the ass.
It's a pain in the ass, and a lot of people just straight up can't do it. Like in my flat, there's no way.
No.
We experimented with like a folding board, but again, it's just a whole table unto itself, and it's just hard to source that stuff. Whereas Kill Team, great. I could play that on my tabletop. I was playing, we'll get onto this, but I was playing some Battlefleet Gothic.
Man, I love that game.
Yeah, it's so good. And again, that just, it was crazy to adapt that game because it's all in centimeters, and, it's like, it happens in a manageable play space. It's a very chaotic game, but you can do it we could do it on our kitchen table in our flat. And I do think like, as the models get bigger for GW sort of 32, what is it, 28 mils?
28 mil technically.
It feels more like, a different scale entirely. As the models get bigger, the play spaces have to almost feel, they have to be bigger in order to sustain them. And I wonder if they might want to look at that and look at the size of their models and the play spaces that people actually have available in their homes.
I do wonder if this was one of the, and it goes back a long way, but one of the considerations when designing Age of Sigmar was Age of Sigmar scales down far better than Fantasy Battle.
That's really true. Yeah.
Like obviously Skirmish isn't great. Like if you compare Skirmish to Kill Team, like Kill Team is so much more robust as a game than Skirmish is. But Skirmish demonstrates that it is possible to play something resembling Age of Sigmar with a handful of models.
Absolutely.
And it absolutely wasn't the case for Fantasy Battle.
No, that's really true.
And so I wonder if they were aware of that, but it's expressing itself through that necessarily and through the furnishing of these other kind of low model count kind of.
Yeah, your Path to Glory sort of like smaller battles. Yeah. But yeah, it's been interesting to play a mix of, different scale battles. And it's weird, especially playing Gothic. That game feels huge. Like it feels vast. Like you've got huge ships and loads of shit.
Well, let's get into it now. There's no reason to
that's
wait.
true. I think we've done the news.
Like Battlefleet Gothic is what, like 15, 16 years old at this point?
It's gotta be right, yeah.
Yeah.
And this is a, fleet combat game, and it's kind of, so it's about spaceships, and it's a Heresy era spaceship combat game. But the ships don't behave like spaceships, they behave like boats.
Right.
So it's all about, the spec for your ships. You've got firing arcs out to the side, so it's all about, lining up broadsides. You've got lances that are kind of longer range that you tend to have on your prow. There are ramming moves. When you hit ships, you strip their shields, and that creates explosion effects. And the explosions are little tokens that sit on the base of the models. Right. And you quickly get this sense of, very physical things happening to these ships, and, actual kind of explosive clouds that they're moving through and that are kind of, jeopardizing their ability to shoot and their ability to regenerate their shields. Cause once you've moved off those blast markers, your shields regenerate again. So it's kind of there's all this flak on the battlefield that you're dealing with all the time. And, a lot of these ships can put out ordnance, which is, fighters, bombers, boarding craft, and torpedoes. And these tiny little tokens are just flying across the board, and you can maneuver them where, apart from torpedoes have to go straight, but you can maneuver the fighters wherever they want to go. And, it creates a kind of space melee that is really intense and really kind of gritty and kind of close and violent. And, it creates it's an awesome sense of a fight. And it looks incredible on the tabletop as well. So I was playing with, a Chaos Fleet, which is one of the 2 release fleets that came out with Battlefleet Gothic way back in the day. And it's actually Fienia from Discord's fleet.
Oh, wow.
That, Chimp bought off him and then stripped and painted up. So there's a whole kind of circle of kind of awesome
Minis monthly
help here. So, I went to Discord and I took some photographs and went to Discord and sort of sent a message to Fee saying, "Hey, I'm playing with your fleet." And, it was extremely nice. So please join our Discord because it's lovely. Chimp was running his Tyranid fleet, and the Tyranid models that GW released were pretty bad. Like they were just weird squid things, just like dumb squid things. And this one is converted out of, kind of Tyranid warrior weapons and stuff like that.
Cool.
So, Tyranid warriors, you could field them with like, the kind of underslung double barrel clawed kind of horrible weapons. And that's been converted to be like the prows of these ships.
Oh, neat. Yeah.
And they look great. They're really menacing. And because they're Tyranids, they just spaff out ordnance all the time. They're just like constant. They don't have to reload ordnance. So the idea is that when you launch fighters and stuff, as soon as they've done their job, you need to reload them, which is basically them flying back to your ship, refueling, and they go back out for another run.
Right.
Tyranids don't care about that. Tyranids just like spaffing out spore, kind of weird spore cloud things that just go and try and eat ships.
Yeah.
And, there's this amazing war of attrition in the middle of the board where, my capital class battleship, which is an old metal model that's super heavy and looks incredible and it's massive. And it was just pouring out fighters into the middle of the battlefield. And all the fighters' job was, all they had to do was just neutralize these
endless spaffing.
Horrendous spaffing of the Tyranid capital ships. And I just about won that attrition war and just managed to neutralize all of that stuff. And, then my gunships got in really close. And, even though they started crashing into each other and blowing up, they managed to get like enough volleys onto stuff to turn them into drifting hulks. And, you get this amazing sense of just like these titanic ships just like on fire, drifting past each other, completely gutted, completely, crippled. Crippled is actually a status in the game where if your ship goes down below half health, they can only shoot half as well. They can only move half as well. And, stuff can like go critical and go nova. It's all about just the mind's eye image of what a space battle, an awesome badass space battle in in Warhammer 30,000 would look like. And it kind of from that perspective, it really holds up. But it's a very fiddly and old school GW game at the same time. So this particularly, becomes apparent when you start looking at damage charts and how many dice you actually need to roll to actually do some damage. So when you're firing out the side of, a Chaos gunboat, they've got like a firing value of 10. And there is a very complicated chart about what 10 may or may not mean depending on the given situation. So you look at the enemy you're firing at. Are they moving parallel to you? Are they moving towards you? Are they moving away from you? And then you start shifting on this chart left or right across the odds to see how many dice you end up rolling. Is there stuff in the way? Are there blast markers nearby? There's just, so many incremental little tweaks that you have to make to this thing. And then eventually, like 5-6 minutes later, you agree with the opponent. Okay, so I shift 2 right here because of this. I shift 2 back because of blast markers. I shift, 1 to the left because they're moving away from me. And then finally, your 10 means you roll 2 dice. Then you roll 2 dice and they miss because you only got 2 dice. And the whole game is like that. Like the whole game is about like really gritty dice mechanics. And the whole game is a great example of what GW have always been good at, which is creating a mind's eye sense of what's going on in the battlefield. And some of the stuff they've actually fixed with stuff like AOS where complicated dice tables are boring.
Yeah.
So at some point, the simulation is not worth it. Like, you don't need to simulate to that extent what's happening. Like, to create, you can still have the blast markers, you can still have the ordnance on the table. All the stuff on the tabletop's really awesome because it actually, you can see this space battle frozen in time, going left and right down odds charts, down the odds axis of where the odds should be to do this shot. Is not good. And that's just a simple matter of evolution of game design, not only within GW, but more generally, like even in pen and paper and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Where, even D&D has like moved more and more away from really gritty kind of
like comparative results
stuff.
Yeah.
And just like away from roles, like fewer roles, but more important roles.
Yeah.
And that's what AOS seems to, what a big part of the AOS mission seems to be like. Yeah, there aren't charts anymore. The weapon profile is what matters. And that can be modified, of course, but ultimately is better than having a grid that you're going back and forth and negotiating.
I suppose the middle ground is something like the strength toughness system in 40k 8th edition and Kill Team, where it's pretty straightforward. Like there are 3 different things it can be, basically.
Sure. There are thresholds and you can immediately see, look, that's double. So this happens. Yeah. But it's a fascinating game. I do love it. There are aspects of it that don't make much sense. So the Chaos ships are all kind of bespoke, kind of angular. The designs are really, really cool, but it's supposed to be Heresy era. And in the Heresy era, like, Chaos didn't build their own ships. They were just Imperial ships that that went wrong,
Yeah.
right?
Was Battlefleet Gothic always Heresy era?
I think it was, yeah.
I don't remember it being that, but that might be because
might be
I
wrong.
was pretty young when it came out and I don't remember, but
Maybe not. But it's weird.
I just thought it wasn't, but maybe I genuinely don't know.
Yeah, maybe not. Because if it was Heresy era, they would all just be Imperial ships.
And there wouldn't be Tyranids.
And there wouldn't be Tyranids necessarily.
Not
Or
necessarily.
Necrons. Yeah, because the Tyranids didn't turn up until way later.
I think they're,
Maybe it's 40k era.
yeah. Yeah.
Oh well. That makes sense then.
Yeah.
The Chaos ships are awesome. It's kind of initially balanced to be Imperials versus Chaos. And some of the factions that came later were not balanced at all. So the Eldar were just insane, apparently. The design of the Eldar was rad. You'd have to pick the direction of the sun on the battlefield. And if the Eldar were side on to the sun, their solar sails would be powered up so they'd be able to move faster, which is such a cool game mechanic.
Yeah.
That's such a cool game mechanic.
It basically fully, digs into these are boats. These
Exactly,
are boats,
yeah.
everybody.
Yeah.
This is the wind.
This is the wind. Yeah, absolutely.
These have sails.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's stuff like, you've got, planets and things like that. And if it's a planet, if you finish a move within 15 centimeters of a planet, you can take an extra turn inwards to it because
Right.
you're riding the gravity well of the planet, which can give your battleships extra maneuverability by slingshotting them around.
That actually happens in one of the Horus Heresy books, isn't it? I think.
Oh, it's so good. And it's so, but I love that shit so much. That's so good. And the models are awesome as well. The models are so cool.
Yeah.
And the idea is that the models aren't as big as, they're not one-to-one representations. The idea is that the size of the ship is actually, so you know how they all balance on, just little sticks.
Yeah.
So the bottom point of the stick is how big the ship's actually supposed to be.
Huh. Okay. So they're like holographic projections. or
Yeah,
something.
they're just kind of like, blow-ups of those little points on the battlefield. And that carries through to movement and stuff like that. So when you're ramming and stuff, you need to do extra rolls because you need to actually angle into the ship. It's not enough to just simply bump into them because these aren't physical representations of the size of the battle.
Right.
that's
I see.
happening.
Yeah.
But it creates, again, the sense of scale and the sense of just awesome, massive conflict. And it is fiddly, but very fun.
Oh, I'm glad. How easy is it to get hold of these days?
Very, very difficult.
Okay.
Very difficult to get hold of. You need to find someone to sell it to you, like a mate, someone on Crank Grubber Discord. You can buy individual ships. They're floating around out there. It just wasn't printed that much. And a lot of it used to be metal. And I think the battleships just are all metal, the really big ones. And they had some nice plastic, kind of ordinary, kind of cruisers and things. But yeah, I think you're probably looking at between like 7 or 10 quid on eBay for one ship in some cases. Like it's properly expensive stuff to get into. But it's a cool throwback to an era where like their games were very, very good at telling detailed stories. I think they still are. But there's something so evocative about it.
Yeah. I think it's also very much part of like the era when we were teenagers as well, right? So it's sort of, there's a nostalgia aspect there.
Yeah, for sure. And it's weird because we played X-Wing 2 and look, they're utterly different games, but it's also simulating a similar-ish fantasy.
Yeah.
And, I still struggle to get like a mind's eye impression of what's happening in X-Wing sometimes. Even though the models are rad and like, I love the rules. Whereas if I want like a story game, something like BFG is pretty nice.
Yeah. I think also the scale helps a little bit with that.
Yeah,
because
that's true as
You're
well.
kind of imagining sort of the vast conflicts on board these ships, even though it's only happening and you're kind of in a couple of dice rolls.
Yeah, that's really true. Have you ever played, is it Armada?
Yeah,
Star
I was
Wars?
going to suggest we should play some Armada.
Yeah,
it's very
'cause
good.
It sounds like a nice sort of in-between point between those two.
Yeah, it is. Well, yeah, I mean, it is
Literally designed to be
Star Wars Battlefleet Gothic, really.
Yeah,
So, yeah.
that sounds awesome. You want to get a Super Star Destroyer in there. So,
They announced that model this year.
Really?
It's huge. Because it's like the sort of Star Destroyer scale is kind of the scale the game operates at. Like a big Star Destroyer is as big as something gets in Armada.
Yeah.
And a Super Star Destroyer is about 19 times longer than a Star Destroyer.
oh wow, shit.
So like,
Of course it is, yeah.
So it's like, it's a bit like when they released Epic for X-Wing and they added like the, Corellian Corvette blockade runner and stuff. And that thing is like, 20 times longer than an X-Wing. Like it's huge. I've got the model somewhere. Like it's massive. So yeah, they announced it and they announced it with a dude just holding up this kind of like real life spearhead sized, plastic Super Star Destroyer, which costs 150 quid or
Oh my
something.
god. That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's so crazy.
Yeah, it's good. We played a little bit of X-Wing 2.0.
We did.
Probably not enough to deliver. Well, we were thinking about doing a pod, but it takes more than 1 or 2 games to deliver big takes on it.
Yeah.
I'm interested to see what you made of it, Tom, because obviously it was your first. It's a game I have such a history with that it's hard for me to pass.
Well, I mean, I loved it as much as I loved the first X-Wing, really.
Yeah.
The only difference is that when I got into X-Wing, the meta was off on its merry way, and I felt like I was never going to sort of catch up with it.
Yeah.
But it was more the sort of circumstances around the game that prevented me from getting into X-Wing than it was anything else. I do like a lot of the sort of cleanup work that's been done with the second edition. So just simply like token management and stuff like that. Seeing who has target locks on what. I like just the way the new cards are designed so that upgrades just, you can slot them under your cards and read them quite easily. Yeah. Just like really basic things like that are some of the stuff that I can appreciate as just a new player, really. I think the Force stuff is like, that's the bit that's like, that's probably the sticking point at the moment. Because it doesn't seem to interact with other systems enormously. So it kind of does, right? So remind me like how it works.
So a force sensitive pilot has like an additional resource that other pilots don't have.
Yes.
Which is usually a regenerating pool of force points.
Yeah. And
force points can be spent to either activate special abilities, which are either specific to the pilot or to force specific upgrades, or they can be spent like focus tokens. So if you're not familiar, the way that X-Wing's dice system works is, you have attack dice and you have defense dice. And both of those dice have success symbols on them of varying kinds. Blank surfaces, which mean nothing happens, which are bad. And, focus symbols, which are like eyes, basically. And, traditional kind of core to X-Wing as a game is if you can maneuver effectively that you, can take a focus action. Focus action gives you a token that you can spend during one of your dice rolls to flip all of your focus results into successes.
Right.
So this is super basic why X-Wing is a good game. Like, the other actions you might do instead of a focus, when the game is sort of operating at its basic level, could be like, repositioning actions like barrel rolls and boosts.
Yeah.
Obviously doing that unless you have ways of chaining the actions together, has a detrimental effect on your dice chances. Because, like, let's say, this is very, very basic dice maths, but basically, if you have a focus token, your chances of getting a hit on an attack dice are about 66%. Without one, it's 50%. So, this is what X-Wing is. It's a game of, like, anticipating positioning and this interesting spaceship maneuvers, coupled with this efficiency game where you try and maximize the chances that your dice rolls will be successful by positioning, which is why it's a dogfighting game. It's why it's good. A force token can be spent to change one focus result into a success rather than all of them.
Yeah.
So if you roll 3 attack dice and you get 3 focuses, force can only be used to change one of them. So that's the basic thing it does. But what this means is that in X-Wing, you traditionally call this having modification for your dice. And so a force user kind of always has some modification, although at a level that hasn't previously existed in the game.
Yeah.
Where it's like less than a full focus, but more than nothing.
Yeah.
Which can be still very powerful. Like if you're rolling only 1 green dice for a defense, for example, then having a force token is as good as anything else.
You're
because
right.
it's the maximum number of results you can change anyway. Luke Skywalker in an X-Wing rolls 2 green defense dice and regenerates a force token every time he is declared as the target of an attack.
Yes.
So he effectively always has modification on one of his dice, and with 2 dice, that's mathematically more significant than it would be on a 3 dice ship, this is X-Wing math stuff. But it's an interesting kind of addition to the game for that reason. But you're right that it doesn't necessarily interact with, a huge number of other systems.
So, if I remember, it's been a few weeks since we played the game. Could Vader use Force to perform extra maneuvers?
Yeah, so Vader's ability is, Vader has a really high force pool of 3. It's the highest in the game, I think. And, after he does an action, he can spend a force token to do another action. And a universal rule in X-Wing is you can never do the same action twice in a round. So you can't just keep barrel rolling.
Okay, sideways.
Yeah. No matter how good a trick it is, you can't keep spinning. But it means that like off any action, Vader can sort of chain things into crazy combos. But in doing so, you kind of completely drain your force pool, and it only regenerates at a rate of 1 per turn.
And then you lose your rerolls potentially.
Or your modification, your token-based modification, yeah. Luke's ability is he gains 1 every time he's declared as a target of an attack, but it has a cap of 2, so it's slightly lower. But, you know, I sort of helped you build that initial squad, and you can give Luke an ability that allows him to spend a force token to ignore the target lock requirement on special munitions.
Yeah.
So like normally if you want to fire a proton torpedo, you require a lock in a kind of thematic way. One of the force upgrades allows a force sensitive pilot like Luke to ignore that requirement in return for a force token, which is Luke switching his targeting computer off and firing with the force. Yeah. Which is very powerful.
That's, and that is an interesting system actually, because it does create interesting decisions. Like, do you want torpedoes, or do you want modification on some defense rolls or something like that?
Yeah, right.
So, it does, at that point, it doesn't really need, as long as it's generating interesting decisions, it doesn't need to interact with other systems, really.
It interacts with a few things, like, there's a critical hit. So a critical hit in X-Wing is when you take a damage, it has to go through your shields, and then rather than dealing the damage card face down, you deal it face up, in which case it has some other condition on it. And one of them that was really nasty in first edition, was called Blinded Pilot, which means that you, when you next try and attack with that ship, all you do is repair that crit, but you don't do anything else, so that you don't get to shoot. Now, Blinded Pilot, rather than preventing you from shooting, what it does is it prevents you from modifying the attack roll in any way except with force dice, which is kind of nice, force token, sorry, which is nice in a kind of thematic way. Yeah, it means that if you are blinded by an explosion, I mean, this is one of the ways the game does tell stories. If you're blinded by an explosion, a regular pilot can't do anything about that, but a force sensitive pilot can still sense, you know, the target or something, which is kind of neat in a sort of, like I say, in a themey kind of way.
I like the changes. I think it's an improvement to turrets, but I still am not sure about turrets, based on what I played. So the turrets used to just be like auto-rotating.
They were 360
flat
degree
damage.
Yeah.
Just do it. And that fucking sucked. Like, even, I didn't play the game a huge amount, but I could tell already that it was just like annoying flat damage.
It created a race whereby aces had to be given upgrades that made them incredibly hard to hit, to account for the fact that what's called arc dodging in X-Wing, where you, most ships in X-Wing have a forward facing firing arc. And if you maneuver effectively to have them in your arc, but you're not in theirs, which is called good dogfighting, then you have arc dodged them. That's what that means. But because a lot of ships in the game had, as you say, 360 degree firing arcs effectively with a turret, that meant that, for example, you ended up with upgrades like auto thrusters, which what they did was it meant that if you were being shot and you weren't in your opponent's primary firing arc, which normally is forwards, then you could automatically add an evade result to your roll. Which is super effective, but it also had some other qualifications that meant that it was good generally. So it created this defensive arms race between turreted ships that were creating like a flat damage level. Like the way of thinking of X-Wing First Edition was that sort of auto damage turret stuff you were talking about became basically the equivalent of a Magic the Gathering burn deck.
Right.
It became like, it wasn't totally broken, but it
play around it
escalated. Like the average amount of damage you can expect to take per turn is this in X-Wing.
You've got to mitigate.
And so anything that couldn't mitigate it fell off the radar completely. And anything that could was obviously better, so that you wouldn't. So in the end, what happened is no one ran those sort of like generic turret lists, because there was no point. You might as well go to the thing that's better than that. But it creates this baseline that the rest of the balance of the game has to flex around. And that's, go on to say what you're going to say about turrets, but that has gone.
So that's huge. That sounds awesome. I think, so to rotate a turret, you need to take an action to do it. And I don't know why you would ever do that. I think like you'd set up a ship and deploy it with a turret pointing in one particular direction, and then, you know, fly the ship around in circles around the edges so that you never have to take that action. And you can save that action for extra, you know, modifications. And so the action economy doesn't seem very efficient for turret maneuvering. So changing position. So, in New X-Wing, your turret faces in a direction, that's the arc, and you can take an action to change the arc. But that's an action, and actions are so huge in the game. I don't know, like,
I think there are so I think playing a bit more kind of reveals some of the subtlety to that. So like, I mean, we tried to set up like an interesting game. So we had Empire versus Rebels, and you had a Y-Wing with an ion turret. And I think the Y-Wing is a perfect example of a ship that actually can play a few different roles. But one thing it can do is, point the turret sideways and orbit. the board,
which is why
facing
I tried to
inwards.
do.
I think, and then in that kind of circumstance that we ended up with, where you have like a big melee in the middle of the board, the Y-Wing's very strong there because it can just orbit that thing. But that's also in the context of, that Y-Wing was one of 4 ships that you had. If you take, for example, like the Millennium Falcon, which is another turreted ship, that will occupy more than half of your list. And therefore, getting it to shoot every turn is really important because the proportional amount of your points that you're not spending, you're wasting, value. Right? Yeah. So rotating the turret in that case. And there are, crew cards, for example, that allow you to rotate the turret under certain circumstances or whatever. So there are sort of, and the game is quite big on effects that allow you to like pass actions off onto other ships and things. So there are ways of sort of manipulating that.
Yeah.
But I think I would defend it on that basis that like,
it's not what it was as well.
It's certainly not what it was.
Yeah.
And also it creates sort of choices that you have to make, like at different points. Like, I think, you experience one particular build of a turret, and I would argue that in 2.0, one thing that's really strong about the game is there are multiple different builds for turrets, basically.
Yeah, sure.
Like, there's a gunner that allows you to shoot once from your main gun and once from your turret if you have both a main gun and a turret. And that creates an archetype for Y-Wings, for example, where you can point the turret forwards in the same direction as the main gun and just charge at people and joust people, which is very different to that orbiting kind of strategy. And that's something I really wanted the game to gain, which is like this chassis, the Y-Wing, is this fighter bomber, and it can be all of those different things. It can be a torpedo boat, it can be a bomber, it can be a sort of orbiting turret sniper, it can be a close-up kind of brawler that maybe charges initially firing forwards, and then as it passes through the melee, rather than try and turn around, it rotates the turret backwards. And at this point, that action becomes efficient because, your opponent is probably busy trying to turn around. And with one action, you can keep moving whatever direction you want to and fire.
Yeah.
Keep firing.
Defend necessarily.
You get shots in that you wouldn't be getting otherwise. And that's much more interesting than it used to be, which is you might do both. Like,
it used to suck. Yeah.
Yeah. Because it used to suck.
Yeah.
That
was good. We had a really good game. And it was very much a game of tight flying through asteroids and, a lot of the kind of actual dogfighting shit that really draws me to the game.
Yeah.
Was flying a B-Wing, which is super fun to fly. That thing is so cool. That thing has an awesome dial.
Yeah, the B-Wing's not really fun. I used to love B-Wings, but they're good now.
Yeah, so just the ability to, flip around in a crazy maneuver where you just kind of like do a turn and then end up facing backwards to where you're coming, and maybe you get a stress, whatever. It's just a badass move anyway, and you shed a stress quite easily on a B-Wing, it seems, by just going forwards 2 or something. So yeah, the ships have personality in their dials.
Yeah.
Isn't that so, and that's like such a cool mechanic, the idea that a movement dial and, so if you're not familiar with X-Wing, you move by, placing like templates of arcs or straight, like rulers, basically. You stick a ruler on the front of your ship, and so if you want to, bank 1 right, there's a bank 1 right ruler that you put onto the front of your ship, and then you move it along that ruler till it gets to the end. And this denotes your ship's maneuverability. You can perform actions after that, let you barrel roll, which let you shuffle left to right, that kind of thing, and adjust your position. But fundamentally, this kind of little set of rulers you have is how ships' movement personality is defined. And the dial determines which maneuvers give you stress, which again, prevent you performing actions. The action economy is like vital to X-Wing. And there are green moves that de-stress you, and there are just white moves that are normal. And this is such an elegant system that creates a sense of what a ship does or can do as a physical object that is one of the coolest tabletop systems I've encountered. And we've seen them try to replicate it in their kind of war game fantasy, like their version of war. Yeah. But it's so elegant for like individual ships that are just trying to fly through asteroids and trying to flip around and get arcs on each other. Like, it's a properly awesome dogfighting system. Yeah.
And the nice thing is that they've, I think, pretty substantially increased the skill cap of the game as well. So in the old version of X-Wing, if you, this is a big deal. Maybe I don't want to get into the weeds on it too much, but in the old version of X-Wing, you have certain maneuvers that can fail. So, a target lock, if you're going to acquire one, has to be acquired. Weapon range in X-Wing is measured from range 1 to range 3. And to get a target lock, you have to declare the target lock, and then if it's within range 3, you can get a target lock, and if it's not, you can't. Similarly, a barrel roll used to be a maneuver, to either side, and you could kind of like sort of finagle the positioning of the template a bit to kind of slide forwards and backwards until you fit somewhere.
Declare that now.
Similarly, a boost, which is a sort of thrusting move that takes you forwards. You sort of declare where you want to go, and if it didn't work, you could try something else. Now, if you declare the action, you have to say, I'm going to do a target lock on this ship. If it turns out it's out of range, you have failed. And you don't get to try another action. You screwed up. Similarly, barrel rolls are now a little bit more limited in where they can go, but in a good way. So now you say something like, I'm going to barrel roll left and forwards. And if it turns out that doesn't quite fit in the gap you were hoping to fit into, you've lost your action. And that's really big because it rewards the core skill of X-Wing, which isn't really present in most of the war games that I can think of, which is, because war games are either sort of grid-based and therefore kind of pretty definite in terms of where you can go, or hex or square-based, or they are analog in the way that Warhammer is analog, where both players kind of agree on the intent of a move. Like, I am moving into range here, or I am moving into cover here, in order to kind of preserve your sanity, because everyone understands that models get wobbly and fall over and things. Sure. X-Wing is both analog and extremely precise in terms of movement. So what X-Wing rewards is your ability to look at, because you can't pre-measure anything in X-Wing, it rewards your ability to look at the table and go, a 3-bank maneuver is going to take me exactly around that asteroid without clipping it. And that is just a learned physical skill. It's a rare example of a genuine, like, physical skill in a war game. And the new action system, also massively rewards that, because if you can eyeball what range 3 looks like, you can pull off target locks that are much riskier than another player would be able to. And that elevation of the skill cap, I think is really interesting. And it's kind of, the game just had one of its first kind of big top level tournaments. And what's kind of interesting is the top lists were relatively similar. I think I said this in Discord already, so people might have heard me say this, but, in 1.0 towards the end, the top lists being similar was pretty much a sign of the times, because it demonstrated that there was stuff in the game that was just pretty busted, basically. Quite low skill cap, very reliable. The best players would still probably win, and there were always exceptions to these things, but the best players were all playing stuff that you could face roll with if you've never played the game before. Right. Because the power creep was so excessive. And what's interesting is the stuff that's winning now, the similar lists are not identical, but they include a lot of the highest skill cap stuff in the game. And so it's interesting what having similar lists at the top tables means now is different, because essentially both lists were extremely fragile Imperial aces, and then a big Imperial bomber that takes care of TIE swarms. And it was the same archetype. And if those are both lists that if you make a single mistake in the course of an entire tournament, you've lost. But basically what that meant was the two players that made the fewest mistakes made the final with the stuff that rewards you the most for making no mistakes, which is exactly where the game should be. And there's probably some work to be done from a balance point of view, just the fact that, like, this always used to be where Imperials lived. It's an interesting bit of faction design that Imperials always had this kind of high risk, high reward thing where their ships are super fragile but quite powerful. So if you don't make any mistakes and you never take fire that you shouldn't, then you'll do amazingly well. Whereas Rebels and Scum have always been a little bit safer. And so there's some, and so what this meant was, for a while in X-Wing First Edition, Imperials won a lot because the best players might as well take the highest risk, highest reward faction. And then over the course of a long day of Swiss pairings, it'll probably be one of those that rise to the top, whichever one happens to have the best day. Yeah. So they have maybe some work to do to make sure that Rebels and Scum have high skill cap options, but that is a much better position to be in than where 1.0 ended up, which was basically just extremely reliable Rebel and Scum lists completely dominating everything, because they both had the damage output to overthrow anything Imperials could do, and the reliability. You know what I mean? It's like, as long as they don't go back in that position.
Kind of concentration buffer where, a player doesn't have to concentrate 100% all the time in order to make the list work. So you could just fly it and fly it and fly it, and it'll mostly be fine. Yeah.
And against a lot of opponents, you can fly in a straight line and just roll dice and you'll win. And so it's in a good place, I think. I haven't managed to do first tournament yet, because I've managed to be away every single time there's been a local tournament, but I'm excited to get back to it, because it is still, it will always be the game that got me back into miniatures games. And it's still such a great thing when it all kind of comes together. And we should play more, honestly, because I think you should see more of the stuff that's going on.
I'd love to. I've had a great time playing it, and it reminded me of why I loved what I played of it before so much as well. Yeah. I always get this thing with, like, card games and stuff as well, where when it's so big and when it is competitive and, there's always a kind of obligation to kind of try to suddenly understand all of it and trying to suddenly kind of tune into the whole thing. Whereas it's fine to just play semi-competitive knockabout lists and just sort of enjoy the game to get used to it before. And onboarding is quite difficult for that type of game sometimes, I found.
Yeah. I think X-Wing, in its current state is actually quite good for that because honestly, like obviously there is a meta. There will always be a meta, but things are pretty much up in the air at the moment. And I think there's still time for stuff to be discovered. And I think it's one thing that's really important is pretty much the majority of games are going to be won by the person who makes the fewest mistakes rather than anything that really happens at the list building stage.
Yeah, that's cool.
And so, like you could probably just play the same basic stuff. And if you practice with it, or good with it, you'll win a decent amount of games, which didn't used to be the case. Like, it used to have the problem of it was a best of one game, but that was hugely matchup dependent, which is an issue that affects a lot of war games, I think, because you don't have time to play best of threes, but you're tremendously matchup dependent in terms of what you can and can't beat a lot of the time. So it
is going to be dice dependent as well to an extent.
Yes, right. Yeah.
On top of that.
Yeah. And so, and the thing is that in X-Wing, because of the way the action system works, everyone is dice dependent and a miracle roll, a game full of miracle rolls will win you a game. But broadly speaking, you control your variance through the efficiency of the actions you take and the quality of the decisions that you make, which is as it should be. Two jousting lists flying at each other. Yeah, that will probably be
a dice off.
But broadly speaking, but you can choose not to do that, right? You can choose to try and manipulate that circumstance so that you get the better joust, etc., by careful range control and that kind of thing. So there are always things you can do to mitigate variance in that regard. But one of the weaknesses of the old game was there were certain things you just couldn't do that are just like, this hard counters the hell out of me. So bye, I guess. And that's, at that point, the variance you're playing against isn't really anything that happens in the game. It's the variance that happens in the pairing system. And that's not, that is a form of metagame you can play. You can try and gamble for a favorable matchup by looking at what's likely to be brought in a tournament and playing against it. But at that point, you're playing a game beyond the game. And it's really nice to have things come back to decision making with the little spaceships right now.
I'm kind of torn because, I could pick up X-Wing 2nd edition, get my scum kind of conversion kit or whatever. So upgrade kit. But there's also Shadespire knocking around.
Nightvault.
Nightvault.
We have to stop saying Shadespire.
We do actually, yes. Warhammer Underworld's
Nightvault.
Yeah. So 2nd edition, Warhammer Underworld sort of. It's kind of soft 2nd edition, it feels like.
Yeah, it's not, it is, I think of it, more as season 2. In the same way that like Magic the Gathering or something goes through card sets.
Yeah.
This feels like set 2. I can imagine set 3 coming out next year and then retiring set 1. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
that would make sense. And, I think we mentioned this last month briefly, but, I'm glad that, all my warbands and cards still matter to an extent, apart from this Sepulchral Guard, who, just were never very good. I think there was a period seemingly within the first sort of weeks of the game being released where, a guy called, what's his name? Rue something from Games Workshop won the first official tournament with Sepulchral Guard.
Yeah.
Just by playing like really aggressively. And, but that was like people were literally taking the new expansion warbands out of the boxes on the day because they were being released on the day that the tournament was happening.
Yeah.
And since then, my poor skellies have fallen off forever. So it'd be nice to get back into it with a new warband that might be able to win a game every now and then. And the starting factions in the new set seem to be really fun.
Yeah, so the Stormcast Evocators, which I've played against, haven't played with, and the Nighthaunt.
Yes.
So the new edition adds, they've been very aggressive, so there are now, the first wave of expansions came out straight away, as we mentioned earlier, so there are now, it's backwards compatible. And actually, in fact, there's kind of more than that, because, so they put out, the core set, which includes, Stormcast Evocators and Nighthaunt.
Yeah.
And their various cards. So it's like in a completely new card set. So it's a new set of 557 cards or something. But there are some overlaps. So like Supremacy, for example, is in both sets. The objectives 1 to 5 are in both sets.
Yeah.
So not every card is unique to Nightvault. But then very quickly afterwards, they put out, the Tzeentch Warband, which obviously is very exciting for me. The Tzeentch Man. The the Goblin or Grot warband, which is mental. Which we'll almost certainly talk about in a minute.
Really crazy.
And they also re-released the former core set warbands, so Garrick Reavers and Steelheart's Champions as new standalone warbands, with loads of new cards with them. But they also released alongside that a 10 quid card pack called Echoes of Glory that contains all of the new neutral cards from those sets.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. So you don't have to, which is just a kind of safeguard against people feeling like they have to rebuy those warbands if they bought the original Shadespire core set, which of course we both did. So
yeah.
So yeah, it's actually like between all of that stuff, it's like I think there's been like a couple of hundred new cards for the whole game already.
Yeah, which is crazy.
Like there's so much that I haven't processed it all yet, and I've just been sort of fishing around. But there's a lot of good new stuff. The big standout new thing is, well, like really in terms of core rule stuff, they've tidied up a few things and incorporated some FAQs for the original game into the new rulebook. So that's housekeeping basically. The big new thing really is, magic. So, I think almost every leader, all of the Stormcaster wizards, every leader for the new warbands is a wizard. And this gives them access to sometimes spells, which are cast using new dice that are on their cards. But also there is, they've kind of, what used to have upgrades and ploys in your power deck. Now you have upgrades and gambits. And gambit is now a category that includes both ploys, which are the old ploys, and spells.
Yeah.
So these are sort of magic spells you can cast. And these are interesting in a way because they sort of sit alongside, talking about systems that interact with each other. They're kind of like, spells that sit alongside, the old, so there used to be ploys, for example, that had a chance at failing, right? But because these belong to a kind of like the magic system, which is a number of special dice that wizards roll, with different upgrades and things that interact with them, they sit somewhere in the gap between what would previously have been like an attack action, for example, where you can modify that with upgrades on your character, and the old sort of, this ploy has a 50% chance to trigger system. It's like, you might have like, it came up in a game we played earlier, but you might have a healing spell, and you might have upgrades that make that healing spell more likely to cast when you finally get around to it. And that's really good in a game like Nightvault, because, it means that you can be holding that card and think, well, I'm going to wait for this upgrade to come off because I only get to use this card once and I want to make sure it triggers, etc.
Big part of Underworlds is kind of, power arcs for being able to put upgrades or, ploys on specific characters to unlock their potential. And it does seem like the magic system has been designed with that in mind, especially for Tzeentch. If not for maybe some of the others, because Tzeentch is the only magic I've really seen in the game so far. But it definitely feels like you're rewarded for synergizing, getting your upgrades together with your magic powers to actually do more reliable damage or reliable healing. Yeah,
it's worth, I think, if you get a chance playing a game with or against the Evocators, because they are always casting spells. Right. They are like very, very magic heavy, because I think they're the only warband where everyone's a wizard.
Well,
and it's pretty powerful, and they inspire when they cast spells as well, so they're kind of encouraged to be always doing it.
Interesting.
But yeah, like it's telling that they've put a wizard in every warband, and it seems like they're going to keep doing that probably till they get to the Caradhran.
Yeah. It seems, it gets slightly confusing where like, you can roll to defend against some spells, but not others.
Yeah,
that's interesting categorization.
It's like, I think it's because some of them are attack actions. So some of them are attack actions that use the magic dice rather than the previous attack dice, which has the effect of like, some of the odds are the same, but, the spell dice don't have assist icons on them. So they don't care about adjacency in that way. Yeah. Which, can be quite good. But you get to defend against them, whereas some spells just do an effect if you cast them successly. So, and those spells, like the damage on them is actually like very low by, I think there are only a handful of damaging spells I can think of, and the damage is always very limited. So, if it's not something you can dodge, the damage is almost always 1, and it's usually heavily contextualized in some way. So, for example, one of them involves like do 1 damage to every adjacent enemy, which is quite powerful, but you don't want, if your wizard is surrounded by enemies, then 1 damage is A, probably not going to be enough to kill them, and B, that's bad. Like you're in a bad place. There is 1 Tzeentch spell that has the potential to do more, but you roll 2 dice for it, basically, and it succeeds on a particular symbol, but it does 1 extra damage for every crit. So it can do 1 to 3 damage, basically, which is as much as it gets. And in, I think that's about right. Like I kind of sometimes wish AOS's magic worked this way, that it was sometimes like more reliable, but did less damage than the average attack.
Yeah.
Because like, it's quite easy in Underworlds, and it has been for a long time, to get even a basic character up to a 4 damage attack at least once.
Yeah, sure.
Like using just regular attacks. So magic feels to me very much in line, if not slightly weaker than, safer but weaker than like putting Hero Slayer, which is a sword that does 4 damage off the bat, but only rolls 1 dice onto a goblin, for example, right? Like there were always ways of doing this in the game. It's not like magic kind of escalates beyond what is possible through other means.
Yeah, I do enjoy the kind of flat sort of damage output that magic has. It seems more like the weirder spells seem more interesting. Like,
yeah.
Feels like magic shouldn't necessarily exist just to be arcane bolts all the time.
No.
It feels like it should do weird stuff.
There's a lot of stuff that I think that's in those decks I haven't really played with yet. Like, there's healing. There's also like adding and removing attack dice from characters.
That's interesting.
There's one that like, so the game has gained lethal hexes, which are hexes on the board that do 1 damage when you are pushed into them or enter them.
Yeah.
And there's a spell that allows you to basically like, so the game has now a scatter system, which is probably more than we have time to explain, but allows you to kind of like move random direction from a particular originating hex. There's a spell that allows you to kind of like summon whatever's lethal about that hex and have it like snake a course away from that hex and do damage on its path.
Interesting.
So basically like temporarily extend a lethal hex and then retreat it again.
Cool.
So there's stuff like that that's kind of neat. Again, that does 1 damage because it's what a lethal hex does, but it's sort of like interesting how that's applied, right? Yeah. Like,
it's just some weirdness and unpredictable. There seems to be more unpredictability in this box. Like, that's probably because we were playing with goblins for one game, and their whole thing seems to just be like,
so to clarify, we played 2 games. We played Nightvault both times, searching for a worthy replacement to your skeletons and finding ghosts.
They're much better than Sepulchral Guard, I think. I mean, I don't know if they're actually like, tournament better or whatever, but just more fun, more options, more resilient, faster. They're able to actually go and achieve things, whereas the Sepulchral Guard, they're so slow. It's very hard to get them in position.
And I played my first games with Tzeentch and the goblins.
Yeah.
So Tzeentch are super weird. They're so weird.
Yeah, it was interesting. It was a really interesting game.
They're kind of unlike any other warband I've played.
Yeah. Like, it's weird to know what to do with them as well.
They have the lowest health off the bat of any warband. Like they have a guy with 4, the leader, a guy with 3, and 2 with 2, which is F all in Underworld's terms.
Yeah.
Like you compare that to something like the Magor's Fiends, the Blood Warriors, who I think start with 3 people with 4 and a dog with 3. Like, it's 15 starting health versus 11. Like it makes a big difference, particularly when you can get those big damage attacks off the bat. But there's a sort of, because they're all ranged and they kind of inspire by doing damage from as far away as possible. They're a warband that requires you to plan like several steps ahead and sort of they are, I've been playing Blood Reavers for so long. They're kind of the opposite. Like Blood Reavers do best when they get a big advantage off the top and can kind of snowball off that. Whereas Tzeentch they kind of are pretty much always going to win the game in the 2nd or 3rd phase. They're never going to like do incredible damage off the bat because half their attacks only do 1 damage at the start of the game with no real way of upgrading them. So
yeah, that's hard because they struggle to access like early glory to get those upgrades on. So you want to build, I imagine if you're building a deck for them, you want to build some like early glory objectives into that deck. Just to
Supremacy, for example.
Yeah, it's a good one.
And you have the ability to summon this blue horror that turns into a brimstone horrors that doesn't die, basically. And there's lots of stuff that's surprisingly powerful in there and like fun little combos. But yeah, it's surprising that like the 2 acolytes that are in that warband have the same kind of like stat line. And apart from the range, the same basic damage potential as like either of the worst Blood Reavers. And so even though they make up 50% of your warband as you deploy it, you still have to you have to treat them as relatively precious. They have about as much value as the disposable dudes from the Khorne warband that then, and that's really interesting because we played this game and I sort of really didn't know whether I was spending the right people at the right time, but managed to kind of, in that game, kind of get into a position where actually the mage, the leader, becomes really powerful after a certain amount of time with the right upgrades. Yeah. And the Zangor does go off as well. And at that point, you could just do so much killing that, I could just start eating ghosts. Yeah. Which was good.
It's sucking up with a big straw.
Yeah, exactly.
That was an interesting fight actually, because I was getting to grips with the Nightvault for the first time, and they are very fast. So they've got a character who can just cause pretty much 60% of the warband to just move 2. And it's not even a move. They can still move after that individually or charge or attack. It's just a shove, a kind of magical shove.
He just pushes ghosts.
Which is so good. It's a really amazing ability. So they also want to swarm people, because if they activate and they're in adjacency with an enemy, that's how they inspire. So they want to get in and swarm and then activate. And then, I didn't know how to, get the points out of that. Was to actually achieve that situation.
Yeah.
It's how do I actually get glory out of this? Cause just killing everyone is an option, obviously, but it doesn't tend to happen in Shadespire games. So it's how do you convert this into victory? And the Spoggle Guard have a similar problem. The main problem the Guard have is that they feed, and they have to feed in order to inspire. And, so you're already, in debt before you start trying to achieve your objectives. And chain rasps and stuff can't come back, but at least they can achieve things before they die.
Yeah. And because they roll 2 defense dice when they're inspired, they do actually, and they're relatively easy to inspire, they take a bit of killing. A good roll will save them.
Yeah, a good roll will save them. They've also got a lot of cool cards, protective cards for, there's a sort of chief chain rasp. I can't remember what his name is.
Vaclav.
Is it Vaclav? So Vaclav's the guy who moves them all, but he's not a chain rasp himself, right?
No, he's not. Oh, the Everhanged.
It's the Everhanged.
Yeah.
And he's actually surprisingly
he's the
tasty,
good one.
actually.
I think so the Briar Queen, who's the Banshee kind of leader, is very, very, very powerful. But I think a lot of the success of that warband, and I think you maybe found that in the second game we played, depends on how well the Everhanged and Vaclav do.
Yeah, yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, definitely. I also think the Briar Queen needs a couple of upgrades to get online.
Yeah.
She needs protective upgrades because she's actually quite fragile. And she also needs to be inspired to start doing the real damage. But some of her, so there are some fantastic cards for Nightvault. I love the relocation abilities. So there are some ploys that let you sort of vanish from one hex and then just respawn on any sort of spawning hex anywhere on the battlefield. As long as, a kind of spawn point, they can just pop up there. So she can just go and try and assassinate someone. But she's got to have some protective upgrades on there, I think. If you're going to go deep into enemy territory and do that, she's just got to have something.
You definitely fell afoul of that against the goblins.
Yeah, but that was a good learning experience. It was okay, so she has the ability to go in and one-shot people, but she's not coming back.
Yeah, don't.
So
don't get pushed into a big arcane pylon by a little goblin.
Yes, don't let that happen to you. But also you could do rad stuff, you could teleport her in. So you could put an upgrade on her that, as a charge move, she can relocate to a spawn point. So
you can measure the charge from any spawn point rather than from where she actually is, which is rad.
Or she could just go and spawn there and attack, if she's right.
Because she has a ranged attack as well. So.
Yeah. So she could go in, let's say she spawns next to someone, you do that as kind of charge, and she attacks. Then there's a ploy in the Nightvault deck that lets you just redeploy someone to any other hex, so she can just bring her back into your own territory onto one of your own spawn.
Yeah.
There's crazy stuff you can do. It's really exciting. And all this movement and they behave a lot like ghosts. They are they're just scary and they can pop up anywhere. And
they've done such a good job of marrying theme to rules, I think.
I think so. With that, just playing 2 games with them, it definitely felt that way. Because you've got all these swarming ghosts that are kind of, ghoulish, and they're trying to tear down the smaller characters. But then your major characters, they can just teleport around and sort of haunt people and go boo and then kill you. Or fail all of the attack rolls.
Yes. I was really taken with the goblins as well for how mad they are.
Yeah.
They're the highest model count warband at 9.
Yeah.
Which is crazy. So, no summoning or anything. It's just one of them is a squig handler with 2 squigs, and when you deploy him, you deploy him in a deployment hex, and then the 2 squigs get placed adjacent to him, wherever you like. And they seem like that was the second game we played. So we both won. I won with Tzeentch, and then you won with the Nightvault against the goblins. And that was kind of mad because like the goblins, like they do like I've always liked goblins. I said this. I was mean about orcs earlier, and it's probably because I've always liked goblins. Like I think they're almost more fun to me in terms of them being like underdogs, basically.
Yeah.
And the nice thing about the Moon Clan grots, as they are properly called, is they're all complete shit. They're all garbage. Like every single individual one of them is a tiny little hooded shit weirdo who can't do fucking anything, who has 2 health and falls over in a breeze. But they're kind of built around these combos where if you can get into the right position, they suddenly do shitloads of damage, which is kind of as it should be.
Yeah.
So that's for the majority of them. So like, you have the squigs, which are quite good generally and become very good if the handler dies, which is a fun mechanic because it encourages you to put the handler out in front and try and like, you know, get him killed basically, which I tried to do and didn't work. Like you wouldn't take the bait. Like please kill this goblin. Cause I want the
They're
squigs.
scary, those squigs. They're baseline, they're rolling hammers.
Yeah.
Aren't they?
2 damage. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like 2 squigs can take down a stormcast, which is about the right amount of squig to stormcast. But also, like, there's like great little ploys, like, there's a ploy that I didn't get to pull off quite as I wanted, but, which is called Stab Him in the Knee, which is you add, 1 to the damage of an attack for every supporting character, i.e. every kind of person adjacent to the enemy after the first. So it means that if you can get someone completely surrounded by goblins, then they get stabbed in the knee by the one goblin they're not expecting and die, basically, because it can go to like 4 damage or something.
That's crazy.
And the art for that is great because it's one of the big Khorne warriors just being like surrounded by goblins and one of them stabbing in the back of the knee. It takes you a while looking at the art to realize which one it is, like, which is very, very goblins.
Yeah.
And then on top of all of this, you got the fanatic. Like if there's something you could say about Nightvault, it's that in finding new mechanics for these warbands, they're definitely expanding the amount of text you can fit on these cards.
Yeah, I mean, good luck reading the essays that are printed on the Goblin cards. And also, you know, I understand why, because you've got to be very precise with your language when it comes to when things move and how they move and stuff like that. Like, you've got to lay it out there. But wow, they're stretching the limits of human eyes.
So this is how mad it gets. So every single goblin, not the squigs, shares a rule that is printed on the card of the leader, which is called scurry, which means that if a goblin makes a move action, then any goblins that were adjacent to that goblin when it moves also get to make a move action, and it chains. So if you ever manage to orchestrate a situation where all your goblins are standing in a conga line, they can all move off a single activation, which is very, very efficient as far as Underworlds goes. And then there is also a sort of linked thing, which is the squig handler has an action which allows him to move himself and any adjacent squigs, and therefore any adjacent goblins as well. So you can use this to kind of propel people into the enemy lines. But after the first activation of the game, regardless of whose activation it is, as far as I can tell, the fanatic inspires. And as soon as the fanatic, who is, if you're not aware of what a goblin fanatic is a goblin with a huge ball and chain who spins around. As soon as he inspires, he loses the ability to move, charge, attack, and go on guard, basically do any of the traditional actions. And when you activate him, he just scatters 4 spaces from his current space. And so this basically means you roll 4 dice and put down this special template and then try and like chart a course. Each dice is like a direction you can go. And you just try and just hope to God that you get where you're trying to go, basically.
Yeah.
Every time you move into an occupied hex, so a hex where an enemy is, you push that. No, not enemy, anyone. You push that somebody and deal a damage to them and then just bounce off on your merry way. And so if you can get him into enemy territory early, he becomes enormously disruptive because, he rolls 3 defense dice, which is the most in the game. Only has 3 health, but he's quite hard to kill and doesn't do loads of damage, but just doesn't stop pushing people, basically. So it takes an action to do it, but like as long as the fanatic is doing stuff, then people are going to be disrupted, basically.
Yeah.
And it's just such a weird design, but it was really fun, even in the game we played, to kind of like, basically the entire game came down to one fanatic move.
It did.
If he hadn't been a huge garbage pile of shit, would have won me the game. But he decided to just spin back and forwards like a big twat.
Yeah, it was really close. That was a really fun game. Like,
Yeah.
I think a little bit of everything happened. There was a lot of just goblin nonsense.
Yeah.
There was a lot of ghost nonsense. It was,
Yeah, my leader pushed the Briar, you tried to like assassinate my leader with the Briar Queen.
I did.
Failed. And then my leader pushed the Briar Queen into a trap, which killed her.
Yeah.
Which is like,
Ain't afraid of no ghosts.
yeah, ain't afraid. Well, so I said this while we were playing, but the great thing about the phrase, ain't afraid of no ghosts is it's a double negative. So you are afraid of some ghosts. And I was in this case afraid of Vaclav the Cruel.
Yes.
Who did come and kill a lot of people before being killed by the fucking swollest goblin.
Yeah, damn. Like, that goblin is MVP.
Well, he sort of was. So I gave one goblin a Shade Glass Spear, which is like potentially a +1 damage spear that shatters when it's successful, and +1 damage to give him the potential to do 4 damage off a single hit. And then he tried to stab Vaclav the Cruel, a ghost, 4 separate times before it finally connected and killed him.
I mean, he is a ghost.
He is a ghost.
So connecting at all
it was
pretty
Stick
remarkable.
It, the shit goblin, at the back, just trying to stab this ghost, and he immediately paid for it with his life.
He did. So I believe, was it Vaclav? I think he had an upgrade on him that meant that when he attacked, if you rolled evade dice,
It didn't count.
it just didn't count, which is an amazing card against certain warbands specifically. And all of the goblins roll evade dice.
Yeah.
So all you have
Apart from the guy with the armor, he rolls, he rolls shields.
He's got shields.
Yeah.
But everyone else, like you'd have to roll crits. I think you did roll like
It was because you were attacking the fanatic who rolls 3 dice.
Yes.
And I was getting at least 1 crit every time,
Yeah,
which is
yeah.
lucky, but it's at the same time, it's like, if anyone's going to do it, it'll be the fanatic.
Right? Yeah, it's going to happen. So I had this, like, it's weird because like the Briar Queen went down and suddenly I had these 2 other sort of mini generals as backup who I could sort of try and get fat and try and roll them into your army and try and kill as many people as possible. It ended up coming down to I had a very good second round where I got some kind of control cards where, this is very good for Nightvault because because of that move that lets you just move loads of chain rasps, you can just go get objectives all over the place. And so I just rolled, well in that round and then just took loads of objectives, cashed in all those objectives for glory, managed to kill just enough goblins and ended up just being just out of your reach. But if your fanatic had to have killed that guy in the very, very last moment of the last round,
I would have scored a lot of points.
you'd have gone big. And then
I think, I would have won it. But yeah, that was really fun. Like, I think I'm going to try and learn Tzeentch as a kind of main because it's very much my jam and I think they're really interesting.
Yeah,
but I think, I was thinking about Nighthaunt myself, but man, I'm always drawn to the underdog warbands. Like, Blood Reavers can definitely win stuff, but they were also kind of an underdog warband in an era of mega tanky orcs and Stormcast and Blood. Like, you know, if I have a criticism of Shadespire, which is a game I loved, it's that, like, I just played so many games against the tanky warbands that everyone fucking plays. And I don't say that to cast maybe the way I said that, maybe cast some aspersions on things. But like, I had multiple tournaments where I only played against orcs. And it's because they were much more forgiving than other warbands. Like, they're not winning with them, I think takes some skill because they have points of weakness, but like, you can't die quickly. And so stuff doesn't really start to happen for a while.
Yeah.
Like, you know, all of the warbands that couldn't die quickly or couldn't start really conceding anything quickly, seemed to dominate the sort of that game, at least at the level I was playing it regularly. Like, I don't think they were the tournament class stuff, but there was definitely a kind of middle ground, a middle part of the bell curve where you just have these big chunky warbands that don't do anything. And, I love that the game is filling up with just weird warbands where stuff is always happening. Like, goblins fall over if you sneeze at them. Both of the Chiric Acolytes in the Tzeentch warband die almost instantly.
Yeah.
Like, you know, and I don't mind that because that's for me what the game's about. It's about these sort of fast decisions that are quite lethal. And I'd love to see I'd love to see things move back in that direction, basically.
I felt like some of the early builds for Stormcast and Orcs they synergized with cards that rewarded you for staying in your own territory for the entire game. And that maybe those cards are fine in the current environment where you've got so much invade potential. There are, Skaven can just go into, the enemy territory at will, and Nightvault can with ploys as well, and the speed of certain warbands. But in the state the game was in, when there were only like 4 or 5 6 warbands available, and none of them could do any of that kind of invade stuff.
Yeah,
those warbands were
that's true. Actually,
particularly
like
tanky.
if there's a common theme to so the Stormcast Evocators, who are very much in the old mold, and they are very, very powerful. There's I think there are a few combos that are a little scary now, but we'll see if they come off. Like it used to be, it's quite hard for any of the old warbands to sort of invade enemy territory at will. And it's interesting that 3 of the 4 new ones can all do it very easily.
Yeah.
So, goblins are just hyper maneuverable. Like if one of the sort of standard, end game kind of objective cards of Shadespire is Denial, which is you score this if there are no enemies in your territory. And it combos with a card called Conquest. And that used to be like something you would probably try and switch off on the last turn of the game, but you probably need a model that was in position to move into enemy territory to switch it off.
Yeah.
The Tzeentch leader, as long as the Blue Horror and the Brimstone Horror are dead, can summon the Brimstone Horror to any starting hex with an action. So it is impossible to cover, if you've lost a single model with any warband, it is impossible, apart from maybe the goblins, it is impossible to fully cover all of the spawn points in your own territory, and you wouldn't do even if you could.
No, I mean, it's so many
mad
actions
to play for that.
Yeah,
so that means that wherever that Tzeentch leader is on the board, as long as they're alive, they can switch off those kinds of passive objectives very, very easily. Goblins get fucking everywhere. There's loads of them. It's unlikely you're going to kill all of them. It's not like you can even control where all of them are going to be. Similarly, the Nighthaunt can get around real fast and, teleport to back hexes and things. I think that's really healthy for the game.
Yeah.
As a whole. Yeah, that's really good. And I'm interested to see what it does to the tournament kind of side of it.
Yeah, the turning stuff was always the stuff that disappointed me most about the game, particularly when, say, you've got some orcs fighting some Stormcast, and if their decks happen to be particularly defensive, especially their objectives, both players would put their boards end to end to create long corridors, and very little's going to happen in that game. Like, it's just going to be...
It's card draw,
basically. It's just, what objectives do you draw? And that's who basically wins it.
Yeah.
And that can't happen anymore because Stormcast have 3 warriors, the orcs have 4. That means there are kind of spawn points that are unoccupied, and a lot of warbands can take it, can counterattack using that. Yeah. Skaven can, Nighthaunt can. So yeah, that's rad.
I think there's also a really interesting, some of the new, I think there's obviously if you're playing Underworlds competitively, then having all of the cards is still a necessity, really. And so some of the stuff in the Echoes of Glory card pack, which is the thing that steps in the middle, to get you up to speed if you already own Steel Hearts and Garrux Reavers. There's a bunch of new score immediatelys. Score immediatelys are very powerful. They are cards that score the moment the condition is triggered rather than at the end of the phase.
Yeah.
And as soon as you score them, you can draw another one. So they can combo into each other as well. And previously they've almost all been 1 glory for those, rather than the bigger scoring cards. One thing they've added is a bunch of 2 glory score immediatelys, which are very, very powerful.
Well,
in fact, goblins have access to a few of them, which I think is how they get ahead, basically, given how much they feed. But also one of them that's generic, which I managed to score against you, is if you kill a character with 2 upgrades, you immediately score 2 extra 2 points for him. So that kill becomes worth 3.
Yeah.
That's great it's great for it's specifically great against the traditional kind of load up loads of upgrades on your beefy boys and go to town squads.
Yep.
Because, you may get with Reavers, for example, you're probably going to sacrifice 1 or 2 people to kill someone like Magor or Gerzag, the orc boss. But it's very likely your opponent's going to load upgrades on that person as you do it. And so getting those points back, I don't know, a danger of turning this into a Nightvault kind of, balanced chat. That stuff I find really interesting. A lot of stuff is about kind of recouping the cost of certain things. There's an interesting Tzeentch objective, for example, that you score immediately the second time you summon the Blue Horror. So essentially, if you've lost the Blue Horror and the Brimstone Horror, you've conceded a glory. In return for whatever control benefit you've got from summoning it. So that card stands in there partly as a way of earning glory, but also a way of earning back glory that you fed to your opponent.
Yeah.
And that stuff, that is where I find, there's so much about this game I like, and there's so much about its design that I really like.
Yeah.
And, if I'm reading it right, Nightvault feels like a substantial rebalancing of the game towards these trickier warbands and away from the solid, dependable stuff.
Yeah.
And I think, and not to say that the game doesn't need both, but it did need some movement back the other way because the other, you know, the solid, dependable stuff can't win everything. Like it needs to be challenged, I think, meaningfully.
The horror is a really interesting character. I'm not sure why you'd ever attack it if you ever needed to. Like,
Yeah.
I think like, because you have to, so the way it works is that you kill it and then you flip the card. It's not inspired, but it's basically similar to the inspire mechanic. And it turns into Brimstone. Is that the smallest version? So it's like two little dancey yellow horrors, and they get like 2 shooting attacks that can chip away 1 damage each. So yeah, like you kill it, you don't get a glory for it because it's not dead. And then you have to kill it again, and it's also gotten slightly better.
Yeah.
Because it has, and so what you do is you ignore it. You, like, surely you just never.
I think that's a nice, this is something I love
just
about,
interesting.
and maybe as we get on talking about other Warhammer stuff, like something I love about that mechanic is, I think, so it's interesting because you can spawn the horror on any spawn hex against Nighthaunt at the start of the game. There aren't any spare hexes in a good place because you occupy all of them.
There soon will be.
But there soon will be. But yeah, but like against something like Stormcast, for example, like it's, you know, that little capering horror is very difficult to remove from an objective because you have to kill it twice. Short of having a push or something like that. And so there are going to be times where, as Stormcast, for example, you're forced to go kill it because it's the thing locking down supremacy or some other kind of big scoring objective.
Yeah. Again, it switches off a lot of the defensive glory objectives that require you to, you know, deny territory. So there's stuff involving keeping the enemy out of your territory, that kind of thing. And that horror just spawning in there just stops that from happening.
Yeah.
And to send one character to deal with it, and if the dice go bad, it's going to take like,
A couple of goes.
the entire game. Like,
Yeah.
it'll take the entire game for one person to clear it off because you've got to kill it twice. So yeah, it's an interesting, really, really interesting character. And I think there's a lot of utility in that little horror.
Yeah. That's the thing I like about these designs is it's not as obvious as simply how do I do the most damage with this?
Right.
It's like, how do I do the most damage to your activations almost?
Yeah.
Right.
Just kind of deny or
Like
force
I've
you into
ruined,
situations.
you know, everyone has a variable amount of health in the game of Underworlds, but everyone has 12 activations in the game.
Yeah.
And if I can ruin some of them for you,
Exactly.
then yeah, like.
That's a good way of thinking about it.
Yeah.
That's a good way of thinking about it. So it's a cool game. I really enjoyed playing Nightvault today, actually. I think it's really cool.
Kind of mad that we've talked so much about Nightvault and we haven't even finished talking about all the games we played this month.
No, we haven't. God, we played so many sort of little disparate games.
So yeah, So I've also played loads of Kill Team, which I know we mentioned at the top of the order.
Yeah.
But since recording the last podcast, I've finished painting my Kill Team. So I'll put some pics of that in the show notes and stuff. My Necrons.
Yeah.
Who I like very much. I'm playing in the local kind of campaign at Games Workshop, and I'm currently undefeated, which is a remarkable.
I mean, this is a classic Necron. I mean, Necrons are always undefeated.
Sort of. But so here's the thing that happened. So technically I have one draw, but like, I declared the draw even though I won the game because of how it ended. And this is my first ever game of Kill Team. And so Necrons, I think, are really interesting. Like, I think they're really interesting design. It feels like, they're quite durable, and they're very high leadership, but their durability arrives in a very different way to, for example, the Death Guard, who feel like, so I don't know if this is purely anecdotal or not, but like, I think half of all of the warbands in the league are Death Guard.
Wow.
Because they're very good. They're very good. And so there's some interesting, like I could talk about Kill Team for ages and I appreciate we've been gone for a long time already, but, Necron durability is based on the fact that when a model would go out of action in Kill Team, you roll a dice. And on a 1, 2, or a 3, it receives a flesh wound, which, it stays in action, but it's at -1 to hit with the flesh wound. And the next time you roll that dice, you add 1 to the result. And if the result is 4 or more, or 3 or more if you've already got a flesh wound, etc., then, that character is out of action. And you roll at the end of the game to find out if they die properly or not.
Right.
Necrons, their special rule is that on a wound, this is like called like the injury roll, basically. On an injury roll of a 6, the Necron is completely fine and even heals all of its flesh wounds. Like, it just gets back together and stitches its wounds back together.
Right.
Which means that a Necron is only ever really killed on a 4 or a 5. So,
so how many Necrons do you have in your kill team?
I had 7, but, through various reasons. So basically the other cool thing about Kill Team is you gain XP, obviously, and your characters level up and your specialists, you pick new abilities for them, but even your kind of line troops level up and gain, like, all of my Necron warriors are at +1 move now, so they're, like, that's randomly assigned which bonus they happen to get.
This feels like more time.
And they're very fast. I've got some very fast Necrons.
Yeah. And plenty of them.
When that happens, they all cost more points. So now that I've actually, like, because I haven't lost a game and I haven't lost anybody, I actually field fewer models now.
Right.
Because I can't afford everyone. Like, my specialists, like, I've got level 2s for most of the specialists. So my snipers are really expensive now, and that's really interesting because actually that feels a bit like a catch-up mechanic in some ways because the bonuses you get are good.
Yeah.
But they're often like, well, it depends on the exact specialist, but they're quite situational. So like, you know, so for example, my leader now is completely immune to shaken tests, which see if they basically freak out. And I got that one because the next thing in the tree is something I really want. That upgrade is actually not very good on Necrons, but the next one is very good. So it's a bit of a tax, but I still have to pay loads more points for him now than I used to. So in a way and I have to take him. So it's kind of an interesting kind of mechanic that if you lose loads of games and you don't get any XP, you're still fielding more people in a campaign than someone who's doing well. But yeah, so I played 4 games. I've won 3 and drawn 1. I technically won it, but that game was really dumb because it was against, Eldar Rangers, basically. So tiny cloak wearing, you know, Azurani kind of ranger dudes that want to snipe you from very far away.
Yeah.
Versus Necrons, and my particular Necron kill team kind of also wants to just sort of march at you slowly and shoot you and disintegrate you from far away. And we randomly rolled the scenario where you only score victory points by taking each other out in close combat and taking prisoners, basically. And it only counts if you take someone out in close combat and there are no other enemy models adjacent to you when you do it. So a straight up brawl doesn't count. You have to like ambush individual models and take them out.
That's tough.
Perfect for Tyranids or something like that.
Right.
But neither of our warbands wanted to engage at that range, but we both had to if we wanted to do anything. And so it started with this kind of like exchange of fire. I just marched at them, basically. Marched at the robots kind of thing. And then in a completely bizarre series of dice rolls that involved me rolling extremely badly on some leadership checks, as soon as I'd gotten to the point where half of my warband had flesh wounds, I then failed my broken warband check, which takes a lot of doing on Necrons with the highest leadership in the game. Basically, I think I rolled a double 6 for that. And then I managed to fail the shaken test for every single model in my warband.
Oh my god.
Which meant that if they fail a shaken test, they don't do anything in the subsequent turn.
Was they just immobilized?
Yeah. And this is going into the final turn of the game based on the turn counter, essentially.
Yeah, right.
And so it was literally full on like Necron.exe has stopped responding. like, like, boo. Like, we're not doing
powered
anything.
down.
But unfortunately, these, Eldar Rangers are so shit in close combat.
Yeah.
They failed to kill any completely immobile Necrons.
They're just battering.
Yeah, exactly. Clang, clang.
Butt of their rifles.
Yeah, like, slapping pointlessly on the rigid metal chassis of the deactivated Necrons. So neither of us scored any points, and then the game ended. So, but there was a rule that whoever has spent the fewest points on their warband wins in the event of a draw.
Right.
And I had spent 98 points, and my opponent had spent 100. So technically I did win, despite nothing happened, but I thought that was completely ridiculous. So I demanded that we treat it as a draw.
Sure.
Because on the victory points, it was a draw. Like, were it not for that condition. But that was my first ever game of Kill Team, which was about as bizarre an ending as you can.
That is insane.
Yeah. It's just, really, really dumb. And then since then, like, there's lots of things I really like about it, like, but it feels like it's got a lot of, like, the kinds of games you have will vary a lot based on the times of warbands you're kind of bringing to bear.
Yeah.
And I've had sort of easier and harder games. And what's cool is like every single time I played a different faction, and every game has been cool. And I'm the only Necron player in the league. And it feels like, it feels very themey for like how this works. So like my second game was against, like an Adeptus Mechanicus, like Scutarii warband, who attempted to kind of form a gun line against me. And, I just walked at them, and like on balance, I win that because Necrons are just more durable.
Yeah. And
I focused on spreading out my damage because you have to take those break checks as soon as you have 50% or more of your models with wound tokens. They don't have to be dead or with wound tokens. So rather than trying to like focus on individual targets and take them out, I would just spread the damage around the warband and try and break them psychologically, knowing that they're not going to do the same to me.
Right.
Or it's very unlikely that they do the same to me. And that was really effective and won me that game, basically. But it created this cool mental image of basically this sort of just Necron kind of battle line marching forward.
Yeah. And that's extremely Necron, by the way, I must say.
Yeah. And there's a really cool thing, which is that you treat, your own models as cover. So which is unlike other, unlike 40k, basically.
Yeah.
Like, so most warbands can't afford to do this because either you can't afford to sit the casualties because you're a minimum kind of model count kind of thing, like Space Marines, or, you can't afford to get to that point where your regular dudes are badly wounded and therefore you start having to take break checks and shaken tests for your models. But Necrons can. So I've realized that my like Necron warriors, the kind of generic dudes, who I have named Thrall, Vassal, and Helot. Basically, they all have different names for serf.
Slave.
Yeah, exactly. They walk in front. They just walk in front of the more valuable specialists that follow behind them.
Yeah.
And they act as cover, kind of both ways. But I don't care. Because it's like, I really don't care what happens to these Necrons at all. Like, I really do not give a shit about them. Yeah. And that feels very themey. And in a game that's so much about cover and so much about line of sight, like, it feels like a powerful but quite thematic thing.
Yeah.
I also have this mobile cover, which is called This Other Necron. And then, I played a game against, Deathwatch, Primaris Deathwatch, which, was pretty cool because they are super tough.
Yeah.
One thing this game does really well is sell the idea of like Adeptus Astartes as just a cut above most things.
That's right.
Like they have 2 wounds each, which is huge in Kill Team. They're really good. Deathwatch get to pick special ammo types for the situation. Like they're
special forces.
They're
basically.
very special boys.
That's right.
And, based on the roll-off, it was a scenario where I was protecting my territory against encroaching Deathwatch, basically. And that was based on the roll-off at the start, who gets to choose who attacks and who defends. And honestly, I would have chosen to defend, given the choice. And basically I just played this kind of keep away game of stalling them out to try and prevent them. Because basically a lot of the scenarios work in this way where after the 4th round or the 3rd round, you roll a dice. And there are escalating chances that the game ends. So initially it's like a 2 up, then it's a 3 up, then it's a 4 up for the game to end. Which means that like, if you are attacking, you're on the clock, but you don't know exactly how much time you have, which is a really good tension to add to like an attack defense scenario.
It's a hurry up mechanic, isn't it?
Yeah. And so that game was really interesting because, the Deathwatch have loads of powerful ammo types, including ammo types that like extend the range of their weapons. And in a game where half range is very significant because you are a -1 to hit beyond half range, the ability to add 6 inches to the range of your weapon is very, very important.
Yeah.
So my opponent kind of chose to try and hang back and snipe for 2 turns and did some damage, but didn't do loads, which was really crippling because it was just too far away. And so I was just standing on the objectives. But the great thing about that game, is that it was the first time I really got to use my favorite Necron stratagem, which I love. So, you have strategy, so you gain a command point every turn, plus an extra command point if your leader is still on the battlefield. And those command points can be spent once per phase in order to reroll a dice, as in 40k. And then there are a bunch of, generic stratagems that allow you to do things like supplant the initiative order and stuff. There's so many cool mechanics in Kill Team. Like, if you don't want to move a model, you can ready it. And if you, so when you move from the movement phase into the shooting phase, the shooting phase is I go, you go, except models that have readied go first.
Okay.
So if I ready all of my models and you ready none of yours, all of my dice shoot first. If we both have a mix, then we resolve I go, you go between the 2 ready sets of ready models.
Right.
And then everybody else.
Yeah.
So it creates these 2 tiers of initiative, which is really cool.
That's interesting.
It means if you're in the right position, if you're in the position you want to be at the start of your movement phase, you don't have to, like, not moving becomes an action in a way that it isn't in normal, 40k or Age of Sigmar. It's really, really good.
Feels a bit like Overwatch in XCOM or something like that.
It is sort of, although there is Overwatch specifically as a mechanic against charging as well. It works the same way as it does in 40k. Where you roll and on a 6 you hit.
Yeah.
So anyway, so all that stuff applies. And then every faction has its own kind of unique stratagems that often cost, 2 or more points to use. And like, because kill team games are so short, you're probably never going to have more than like 8 points in the entire game. So often one thing I've found is that a lot of the games come down to like when you choose to use your points and is it a successful or clever use of those points? And that's a really important layer to have on top of the positioning and dice rolling wargame stuff.
Yeah.
Necrons have an ability called Mind Shackle Scarabs. And what this does is you can use it as long as there is an enemy within 6 inches of a Necron. Any Necron. It doesn't matter about line of sight. It doesn't matter about physical geography.
Yeah.
And this is because that Necron just deploys a beetle that skitters over to this enemy and attempts to take over their brain. And if you roll 2d6, and if you beat their leadership value, you can then make a shooting attack with that model as if it was yours.
Oh shit.
And it's the best because it means you can do loads of really interesting strategic things with like, because there's a lot of vertical terrain and line of sight blocking stuff. It's like you leave one warrior 6 inches away from an important enemy. You can do things like convince a Deathwatch Iron Hands, to turn around and just shoot his mate in the chest with like the most damaging ammo round they have.
Yeah.
I haven't managed to pull this off yet, but it's like plasma's very good in Kill Team, but Mind Shackle is amazing against plasma because you can overcharge it, which means that if you get the one to hit, they can kill each other. It's like, it's really good.
Oh, that's nice.
Then my most recent game, the final game I played in the series was against, my friend Jay, who's the manager of Games Workshop in Bath, who has like a really terrifying, like, I think Hecatrix, like Dark Eldar kind of, like witch leader, who is converted really beautifully into like a kind of like serpent beast, basically, armed with like this pistol that does D6 damage, which is huge in Kill Team. Actually, really interesting about Necrons is, when you get hit by like, let's say you get hit by a 4 damage attack, but you've only got 1 health. The way that works is with anyone in the game, you roll, when you've lost all your wounds, you roll a dice for every wound you took and pick the highest value for the injury roll, which in the vast majority of cases is going to mean you're completely fucked because it means that if you want to survive it, you have to roll all 4 underneath.
Unless
3.
you're a Necron and you roll
Unless you're a Necron and you get any 6s.
And
it's like, you're like, I don't care.
Yeah,
and the Necrons, so it means Necrons are very good against high damage weapons, which is kind of like interesting.
That's interesting, yeah.
Whereas Death Guard aren't, because Death Guard get the 6+ ignore, but they have to get 4 6-up ignores, right?
Yeah.
Like, whereas Necrons have to get 1.
Yeah.
But Necrons are also weaker against sustained small fire, which is just a neat, it's
nice,
good number one.
It's good simmy numbers.
Yeah. But I managed to, mind control the big snake from behind a crate, shoot another, Drukhari witch in the back of the head, with the mega pistol, kill her, and also for the first time, kill her in the campaign as well.
Oh god, wow.
Like,
that must take quite a few dice rolls to actually.
Well, so the way that works is at the end of a game, you roll a d10 for every model that was taken out of action. And on a 1, they die permanently.
Yeah.
On a 2, they miss the next game. On, I think, a 3 to an 8, they're fine. On a 9, they gain an XP. And on a 9 or a 10, they gain XP. So you can actually gain XP from being shot, which is, that's like, it's a 1 in 10 to permanently die. But it was really like themey to me that Dark Eldar actually did die, and it's because she was shot in the back of the head by
her own,
a snake being controlled by a scarab beetle, being controlled by a robot, being controlled by a bigger robot further away.
That is excellent. Excellent storytelling
in
a small, horrifying
but I'm quite
battlefield.
proud that my like, ragtag band of, sort of, Necron ex-cons are doing well.
They're doing well.
Yeah.
So, how long does the campaign last? How many?
3 months, and
okay.
It's 4 games per month. There's some sort of like slightly sort of wonky stuff in the way that Games Workshop are running it, because they're really heavily encouraging painting, and I can, like, of of the games that I have played, like only two have been against fully painted warbands. Like it's quite rare that people paint their stuff.
Yeah.
So one rule they've got in place is that for, every model you paint in the official Games Workshop campaign, you can recoup 2 points of resource losses from a game you lose. Which means that because I have painted 7 models so far, if I paint one more model, I literally can't lose.
Okay.
Because I've got 8 games left.
Yeah.
And I painted 7 and I haven't lost one yet.
Yeah, I see.
So I literally can't fail. So it's pretty soft as serious tournaments go, but it's quite a lot of fun for like just, and there are still prizes for like best in faction and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So
sure.
good for me being the only Necron. I can also not lose for that reason. But like,
Yeah.
like it's been a really fun way to kind of just play a bunch of games with people and see a bunch of different things. And like, it's made me realize that like, I don't know how committed I am to ever really having a 40k army when Kill Team exists. Cause it kind of gets, apart from tanks, it kind of gets to the core of what I want to do with that setting, which is,
And knights.
and tanks and knights, big things, basically.
Big things.
Like the leaders expansion is coming out, the commanders expansion is coming out soon, which adds the ability to take kind of more substantial characters like librarians and stuff, and cryptex, the Necrons. So I'm going to add a cryptech. And when that stuff's in place, like, yeah, like, it's just really good. We should play some. You should finish it.
I'd love to.
Just grab some Space Marines and we'll play.
Yeah, because I've got enough Primaris just to put up a really basic Primaris squad just to get used to the rules and stuff. And yeah, if I get into it, I would definitely like to have a nice.
I've got all the terrain built as well. So
yeah, the terrain is when it comes to like, so it's worth mentioning sort of like the release schedule and pattern that they've adopted for Kill Team.
Yeah,
because it's unusual.
Yeah.
And it's insane because there's so much stuff. So like you get terrain and a Kill Team in a given box.
yeah.
And
there are dedicated terrain packs as well that come with special rules.
And then there are kind of, there are Kill Team zones, aren't there, right, that have different rules?
Yeah, so the Kill Team zone boxes, which I think are about 50 quid for a bunch of basically the 40k terrain kits, like the Mechanicus stuff and things, plus some rules. There are the warband or the Kill Team kits, which is like, it's basically the equivalent of like a box of elite infantry for a given faction, really, but on colored plastic, if that matters to you. Plus some terrain, plus cards and tokens specifically for that faction.
Yeah.
So I genuinely might get the Necron box because I want some more Immortals, and I might do some more Immortals in a different thing, but also you get the terrain and you get a bunch of other stuff, and it is cheaper than buying those things separately.
Yeah.
And then there are the multiple big core sets. So there's the Scutarii, like honestly, the core set to get if you are interested is the Scutarii versus Genestealer Cults one, just because the amount of terrain it comes with is absolutely nuts. Like, the other core set is it was the one they initially announced, I think, which is the, like Rogue Trader set where it's, Rogue Traders versus kind of Nurgle, mutants and demons. Those models are gorgeous. So the advantage of that one is beautiful monopose models. The other one is literally just the standard Scutarii sprue and the standard Genestealer Cult sprue. Yeah. But it also comes with like 100 quid's worth of amazing 40k terrain, which is like, and a board to play on. To clarify, the Rogue Trader set comes with a board as well, but it's set on a spaceship, so it's much more corridor based and kind of narrow than the kind of urban combat thing it does generally. So that's all there. And then, and then there's the Commanders expansion, which is just a book and cards and stuff for a new kind of tier of thing. But they're also about to release Commanders expansions, which are basically character models as they would previously have been released. So like the Primaris Librarian model, for example, but with a bunch of extra cards and tokens and things to tie them into Kill Team. Like, some of this stuff I think is very much like, it's interesting because I think it's quite cash grabby. If like, it's not worth buying those if you have those models from other sources. Sure. But it's quite easy to like stay within the Kill Team ecosystem and sort of end up with a 40k army. Like, it seems quite clever what they are doing with it. Yeah.
Some intention there. The amount of, so I've seen, I think you've got all of your terrain sort of built, if not painted yet.
I've built it, but not painted. But it's on colored plastic, so I feel no pressure really to paint it quickly.
Yeah. But that's great. Having seen it, like, it's massive. Like, back in the day, you'd spend hundreds of pounds to get that much terrain.
I think I now have about as much 40k terrain as I have Age of Sigmar terrain. actually no, I have more, which is mad because it was one box.
From that box.
Yeah,
one box.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it builds almost like a sort of a crumbled corner of a vast cathedral. Like it's really tall as well as, being multi-tiered.
Yeah, and it's modular as well, so you can not glue bits together and assemble them. I think I spoke about this in the podcast before, but
Yeah, it's really good.
I haven't actually played with that at all. I've only played with the stuff that had been assembled in the store.
Yeah.
But yeah, like it's perfect for, you can play out of the box, which is rare for any of these games.
That's so rad.
Yeah, it's real good. God, that's everything we've been playing. Oh no, we played some AOS. Shit.
Yeah, we played an AOS game.
Yeah, so I guess the main AOS thing this month, before we get onto hobby stuff briefly, is the main thing I don't think we can get too much into the weeds on this in terms of battle report stuff, but we've both had slightly different experiences of our armies changing because you've had sort of, your secretaries finished up and they're great.
Oh yes. Extremely good.
And I have had all of my war scrolls changed.
Yeah.
So the Beasts of Chaos, which is the kind of like Beastmen battle tome came out and changed all of the Zangor units. And they have since FAQ'd this to clarify that this does override the Disciples of Zinch versions of these.
Yeah.
So Zangor have changed substantially. Zangor Enlightened and Skyfires have changed from points changes to lots of rebalancing.
And this was about 5 weeks after you'd finished painting.
Yeah, it is.
Your block of...
And it renders the way I designed and built them sort of bad now, but not, I was a little bit disappointed at first, but I made my peace with it because actually I think, I won't go into exhaustive detail, but I think the changes they have made are exactly how I would have preferred them to have been designed in the first place.
Yeah.
Like I think I have lamented on this podcast before that Zangor, given how detailed they are as models, were designed in a way that made it desperately suboptimal to run less than 30 of them at a time. That felt like just punishment, basically. Now 10 is viable, 20 is probably optimal, 30 is highly situational, which makes me having 30 of them kind of like, oh well, I did that, I guess. But I think they're a bit cleaner as a design now.
Buy another box of 10.
I know I could get another box of 10. I'm thinking about it. I don't.
Games Workshop's master plan.
Yeah.
Is working again.
But nonetheless, right, like that's happened. But Enlightened are great now. Skyfires are garbage, but that means that it's Flamers' time to shine, everybody.
Also, Zangor's still good.
They're still good.
They're still legit. They're great.
Yeah. And we played, I'll talk about hobby stuff in a minute, but we played a game with one new unit on my part, which was from the Zangor Shaman. And what we're going to do, so to clarify, because obviously at this point, the Miniatures Monthly meetup is a month away, which is very exciting. And at that meetup, we're going to play a big narrative game, which is the details of which are coming together. And so what I was thinking we might do between now and then, because obviously next month's regular podcast is going to be a little bit delayed by our own meetup because we'll be away on the weekend when we'd normally be recording.
Yes.
But what I'd quite like to do in the meantime is do another AOS battle report, kind of as a standalone podcast, but that sets the stage for the narrative game that is coming. But the game we played also sets the stage, because what we're going to do at this point, which I think is kind of fun, is I think I've mentioned in the past that the plan is for our narrative game between you and I, Tom, to be affected by the outcome of games that run simultaneously. Everything from skirmish games to big games of AOS to even Silver Tower, potentially.
Yeah.
If people want to run it. And so the games we're playing now are setting the criteria for those other games, not the central one, which is interesting. So in the game we played the Protect the Wards scenario from Malign Sorcery, which involved my sort of, now predominantly Zinch Mortals army clashing against a series of magical wards erected by the Stormcast to protect a particular city, which might become significant in a month. And it was a really interesting game for a bunch of reasons. Because I think like the best games of Age of Sigmar we've played, we both thought we were losing the entire time.
This is the beauty of scenario play.
Yeah.
And I think we've had so much pleasure out of the Malign Portent scenarios. It's weird, like, they released a new edition, they released General's Handbook, for this year, but the ones we've actually played and gotten the most out of has been these fantastic Malign Portent scenarios that obviously would not be suitable for competitive play in a lot of ways, but a really fun, objective-based scenarios with strong narrative drive. And, this one was no different. So, like, what was it called? It was called
Protect the Wards.
Protect the Wards. And so, basically, Stormcast have our own territory on the long side of the board, in our deployment zone. And there are 2 wards that
so it would be 3 on a 6x4, but we adapted it by 4x4 for a 1,000-point game. So that's worth saying.
Yeah. So, imagine, a 1 foot by 4 foot sort of like territory. And then,
So yeah, it was 2 2x2 territories. No, sorry, 2 1x2s. That's it. Yeah. On your territory.
Yeah, that's right. So, my entire deployment zone was 4x1.
Yes.
And, the ward, and then divide that in half, and 1 ward belonged to each, basically. And, the interesting thing about this scenario, and I've not seen this in any other AOS scenario, is that your army could not go into that space while the wards are up. And the scenario is all about, Chris's army coming and breaking the wards in order to occupy the space. In order to occupy my, deployment zone, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, the wards in this case being another rare thing for an AOS scenario, like physical terrain objects that count as enemy units.
Right.
So I have to actually physically destroy them. They have a save. They can't move, but they have a save value. You have a command ability that allows you to give them an invulnerable save.
Like, they're quite tough already. So
15 wounds.
15 wounds, 4 was 3 plus
save.
save. Yeah. So yeah, they're like properly hard, like mini monsters. They can't attack back, but you have to do a lot of wounds into them to get them down.
Yeah.
And yeah, so it's an interesting one. You had a very interesting deployment zone, a giant triangle.
Yeah. A big chevron. And again, led by the Curseling. And it was really interesting, like, game of, cause it was a relatively fast game. Like, 1,000-point games of Age of Sigmar are interesting because they can be very matchup dependent. And I think in this case, the scenario, I think 2 things. One, the scenario, but also our kind of attitude to the game meant that this was more even than it might be. Like, when I played 1,000-point games of AOS before, as we've discussed, sometimes it's Lord of Change and some friends versus whatever big monster you've brought.
Yep. I don't think, 1,000-point AOS is terribly good competitively because you get so hard countered so easily by just a big monster. And if you want to run a balanced infantry army, you're going to lose probably like just a guaranteed amount of your games just because someone will bring a monster that you can't deal with. Yeah. And it's very hard to build, it's fun to build lists at 1,000 points for AOS against someone who's not going to just go Nagash and some direwolves. Yeah. Or something like that. Like, it's fun to build against each other.
I think it'd be interesting to try and, maybe this is something we could do, is like actually codify what the rules are for good 1,000 points. Like, I think you can have Behemoth units, but I don't think they can be heroes. I think that's a good general rule, like rule of thumb. Like, you can take a Behemoth, but it can't be a hero. Like, you can take a wizard, but it can't be a Behemoth. Like, that kind of thing, like, but probably goes hand in hand. I think it comes down to like those particular things. Maybe no War Scroll battalions is a really good rule for 1,000 points as well. So you can't kind of min-max in that way. Yeah. Like, it works really well when you build the kind of thing you imagine as an army being. Like a couple of units of infantry, some heroes, a cavalry unit. A bit of range, but not too much. Like, that kind of balance is really good. If it looks like an army, it's probably going to be a basically. Good game, right? Yeah. If it looks like a man on a dragon and his 4 mates, you've probably done it wrong. But maybe so. Yeah, definitely. It'd be interesting to codify a kind of. Surely like Warhammer rules writers have struggled with this forever because this is why battle line tax exists. This is why the concept of tax exists in war games. Is that tax is a way of forcing people to build armies that look like armies and that sort of have enough people and units and different, units with different roles to actually behave like an army on the battlefield and make for an interesting game. And it's a shame that, tax is a kind of community invented word that attaches a negative connotation to a thing that is probably going to make the eventual game you play better. Yeah. So it feels like, let's think of a different word for it, and also maybe some rules that are a little bit. Well, I think for flexibility. I think these limitations bring out the best in the game. Honestly, like, and that was true of this game. Like, it was interesting because I had 100 points spare and I thought about taking some endless spells. I thought about taking some screamers and ended up taking 2 Chaos Spawn because I like the models.
Yeah.
And it's like,
They're really fun.
and they ended up being really fun. Basically 2 Chaos Spawn ended up in a fight with some Judicators for the entire game while also slapping this one object, trying to slap one of the other
with their
wards down.
tentacles, yeah.
And the Judicators couldn't shift the Chaos Spawn and the Chaos Spawn couldn't really do much because they're so random, bless them. But it was quite fun. And then, meanwhile, on the other flank, you have this kind of huge melee versus Zangor versus Sequitors, which is a really like, that feels like the kind of like 20 Zangor versus 10 Sequitors feels like a surprisingly 1-to-1 matchup, given the relative points costs of those things. But yeah. Like,
the Sequitors are good.
they are really good.
They're really good. They're really good when you start stacking buffs on them.
Yeah.
And, this is my first, I experimented with a prayer called Bless Weapons, where every time you roll a 6 to hit, you get an extra hit, basically. Yeah. And that is super, I think that prayer is rad, especially when, you know, a lot of apparently, so, I was talking to you about this, and the War Scroll for Sequitors, if you roll them with swords, they get 3 attacks each.
Oh, dang.
3 attacks each, bless weapons. They're 4+ to hit, but wow, I think there's potential in some combos for Sequitors being amazing. And also, because you can also channel their etheric energy into their shields, which lets them reroll saves.
Yeah.
Or into their swords, which lets them reroll hits. So 3 attacks each, rerolling hits. 6s become more hits. You start to see like some serious combos for a unit that costs, I think, about 120 points. Like it's a battle line. They're amazing. They're really, really strong.
I'm really taken with how my army feels now as well. Now that I've got so much more mortals and Arcanite stuff rather than demons. Like my hero phase is so much quicker.
It's much more fun to play against, I have to say. Because there's a bit of everything, and there's a lot more movement, there's a lot more fighting. I like that.
Yeah, I actually have melee units. Like, I had some pink horrors and, like, it was interesting. I think over the course of both this and Nightvault, you've learned not to hit the demons.
Absolutely,
Because the demons pop and turn into more demons.
Yeah, they do sneaky shit.
And so, like, here's me saving my, I used some combos that are quite fun, like sacrificing the demons to get better casting rolls, and then now that there's no limit on expanding the size of a unit with summoning, like inflating the original pink horror unit past its original size and stuff. Like all that stuff which would have felt very edge casey in the original game now feels much more balanced just because the army is better balanced. And I think that's like, it's not like my army before was like min-maxed, it was just all demons. And like the demon side of Tzeentch, I think specifically is really weird. Like every single unit is weird in some way, and it helps a lot to have this core of like freaky birdmen who are themselves weird, but behave in a different archetype rather than like everything about a demon Tzeentch army is about range control and playing keep away while you mortal wound things to death with spells. Because that's all you can do. Like everything else you have is suboptimal in every regard. It's just that if you can survive long enough, the wizards will kill everything, which is the way the army works.
Yeah, unless you do what everyone did and run Skyfires
right. That's what I mean. At that point, you're going back into Arcanites, and it's, I'm talking about the sort of the Tzeentch demon,
just the pure
thing
demon
that I was doing
build.
previously.
Sure. Yeah, Tzeentch is, I kind of feel bad about the Tzeentch book because it was almost awesome. I think, I think it was super, there's such a binary arrangement of good to shit stuff in that book.
Yeah.
So there's stuff that's just fucking amazing that everyone took and bullied the tournament scene with it. And that was Skyfires, that was with a Lord of Change and loads of pink horrors, that could, respawn to form massive kind of, flesh lines that would soak up charges and that kind of stuff. And that would like just dominate, but it'd also be the same for everyone.
Yeah.
And it was also like, but if you didn't want to run that type of army, you just run Arcanites, who were shit, and then you'd run Zangor, who were
all right, but not
fine,
points,
but not efficient. And then so you had this kind of like 2-tier list within that book, and I think it was a real shame because the model ranges were awesome. The art was beautiful, the book itself is gorgeous, and everything about it apart. But I felt like the rules writing was just like,
I even like Destiny Dice as a mechanic. It's I think they just overtuned the wrong things. Like, I think actually the army's in a good place now. Like, as sort of galling as some of these changes are in terms of how they affect the stuff I already had, like, I like the whole army now. Like, I did something I wasn't thinking about doing, but I went and rebought the book on the app which is basically so that I can get access to the rules for battalions and spells and things in the app rather than having to have the book to hand. And that does mean having now paid, it's not quite twice because it's cheaper on the app, but like, it's like an extra 15 quid or something. But given how much, it's my one army. So it's like, I'm not buying other books, you know. So I did that sort of on a whim, but I realized that with the stuff I'm currently adding to my army, I can run almost every battalion in the Tzeentch book. Not quite all of them, like the one that involves 3 Lords of Change I can't do. Yeah. But like, I can do a lot of them. And I kind of want to. Like, I want to try running different variants of the army, probably at 1,000 points, where I try different War Scroll battalions that are not amazing, but interesting. Because I think, like, that's kind of, you know, there's a fun one where the Lord of Change can use any unit of flamers as an output for spells. So they kind of fire through the flamers, which is kind of an interesting kind of thing. But it involves taking flamers that are quite expensive and not amazing. So it's like,
they're very fragile.
Yeah. So like that I think sounds interesting. And I feel like now that the extremes of that army have been reined in, I feel a bit more freedom to, enjoy kind of playing around with the rules that are there. Like I don't anticipate getting a new Tzeentch book for a long time. So I'm kind of happy to just sort of have that army, you know, and just sort of experiment with it basically and constantly run different things.
Yeah.
And I think even the competitive options now look and feel a lot more sort of, balanced, you know, in terms of what they can and can't do.
Yeah. I think, man, it's kind of tough because we've spoken before on this podcast about how, you know, we could have our own games in a bubble and they're great and the books work beautifully and, you know, the unit rules work great and they create really interesting games and a lot of even close situations. But there's always that sense from the outside of like the perception of Tzeentch, particularly that must play into how you think of your army. It does. Like, I guess I've always just done me. Like, it does suck. It sucks to go to an event and have someone roll their eyes when they see your army. Yeah. Particularly because they are like, I've had a guy running a cunning ruck roll their eyes upon seeing my thing. Right. And it's like, you know, I feel like when you enter a competitive space, you have to rise above that instinct somewhat. Like, to assume that other people are running the cheesy thing and you are fine. But did you find it hard to like, part those worlds completely? So doesn't that perception of your army from that context feed back into, you know, like our games and stuff? Somewhat, although I never ran that stuff, I guess. Yeah. And like, I mean, I appreciate that in the, you know, year and a bit we've been doing this podcast, like we've definitely had the games where like, you know, I think the first game I ever won, like after a long time, like it was very hard for me to really maintain this sense of like, I need to start running this bullshit army because I never won ever. So there was like, right. But then when I did win, and it was because of basically like magic stuff that, you know, was for the longest time a very one-sided system. And we've discussed ad nauseum the ways that system isn't satisfying if both sides don't have wizards, for example. Like again, AOS second edition makes that a lot more fun. And as you have additional Knight Incantors and things in your army, like even just that one Knight Incantor with her automatic unbind once a game, she always does work. You're involved in that system a lot more than you used to be. You're playing a game you have a veto once. Like you can basically like we've had games that have hinged on me having a bad magic phase, and you can force that pretty much once per game. Yeah, that's really cool. I really like that. But I suppose whether or not I suppose if the question is whether or not I ever felt like I was doing the wrong army or something because of that kind of broader reputation, I don't think so, because I really love the models. And like, I like the vibe of a Tzeentch army. Like, it'll always be my favorite, like, Chaos God, I think, and sort of, like, you know, I think we've always played it in a way that's relatively thematic, and it's never been about simply wiping the other person off the table before they have a chance to do anything. But I guess my question is more that, was your army sort of, or your perception of your army tainted by that attitude across the board? Not really, because like it felt like something that's happening to other people. Like I think maybe it helped that I didn't get like a big old hipster. I didn't get Skyfires until they weren't cool anymore. Like, you know, I never had the really amazing min-max stuff in the army anyway. Yeah.
Really. Like, I was running Screamers and Flamers.
But that's the thing. So I remember, like, so we went to, like, a 1,000 point tournament at Big, and, I remember us going around, and, like, I saw people going up and going, oh, it's just Siege. Like, literally just, like, without even talking to you, just being like, you know, giving you that reaction right up, out of the bat, you know?
Yeah. Well, yeah. And like, I think that's just called being a dick.
I mean, because, like, your army wasn't crazy. Like, it was just, you know.
It was like, I had a load of change in 1,000 points, which maybe is questionable, but.
Hey, I fought Vordry in a fucking zombie dragon.
Yeah, I mean, I fought a giant monster in every game I played.
Yeah.
It was like,
it's the way to do 1,000 points, it seems. Like,
in a competitive setting. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
And I mean, you had the Celestin Prime in yours, right? I mean, the worst year, 300 points.
I could have run a Star Drake.
You could have done. But if you painted it at that time, you hadn't.
No, I did not have it painted. Not that stopped other people from.
No, indeed.
Down.
No, we can be better now. But like, like, yeah, and that is really disheartening, but I got through it. Like, at the same time, like, you know, I don't know. I knew that it was like an army that, like, I had put care into, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
I think one thing it reinforces is like, I was not running, obviously that particular tournament had no painting requirement, but even the tournaments I've been to that have had a painting requirement, like, you know, I remember I got the same reaction at London GT to, like, I was running a change host, which was one of the more competitive Zinch builds. I wasn't running it in the min-maxy way, but I was running it.
Yeah.
And I loved change host. I thought it was really fun.
Yeah.
But, cool rules. But, like, I got a best painted nod, and that was partly because, like, I'd put, you know, a lot of effort into the army. So it's like, I felt like you could kind of justify, like, you could rise above some of the stigma by having put a demonstrable effort into this. Like, I hadn't shown up with, like, 1 million Skyfires that I had airbrushed 3 different colors to get past the painting requirement on a technicality.
Right.
Like, you know, that's power gaming. Like, what I had done is meticulously paint bullshit.
I'm kind of quite glad. So I think the new Sacrosanct Chamber is really strong.
Yeah.
And I think its power is undiscovered in terms of the combos that you can create between, particularly Secretors and Evocators.
Yeah.
And a lot of the existing spells, particularly realm spells and realm artifacts and things. But Stormcast, for, you know, they get a lot of hate for just being the Space Marines of the fantasy zone. But I've never felt that to be a problem for me.
Incidentally, Space Marines of the Fantasy Zone is the name of my prog album.
Space Marines of the Fantasy Zone. Stormcast. But
that's like a fucking jazz prog metal album.
Oh, I love
Totally. Sorry, I've derailed you. Go on. Sorry.
Mike Debenham, if you're out there.
Yeah.
Please do this for us. Yeah. Please don't
it's like a Dream Theater album, basically.
Yeah. Oh, I bet that's all Sigmar hears in his head when he's...
Or Dream Theater.
Yeah, he's crafting...
oh god.
Crafting his forges.
No, he's all day, it's Wagner all day.
Really?
Yeah, totally, right? Like...
Interesting undertones there from...
Well, yeah.
I guess so, yeah.
They are the Space Marines of the Fantasy Zone, we just established this.
Yeah, that's good, very good point.
Yeah.
I like that. That was like we just did the question section before we got to the question section.
Yeah, indeed.
But yeah, I was going to say actually, competitively, there's not really been,
Stormcast seem quite bad now, which is...
I don't think they are bad now. Like, that's the thing. I think there's potential in the Stormcast list at the moment. But they, apart from a few, like, Hammer Strike Force, which was a battalion that was really fierce, where...
It was like, did anyone order 100 Liberators?
It was, you'd fly in some Prosecutors and then they'd drop, 2 units of 10 Paladins within 3 inches away, and then they're not going to fail their charges. So there was some brutal stuff, like in the early days of Stormcast, but they never gained that Zinch reputation. And it's interesting that, I think Destiny Dice particularly is a feel mechanic. I don't mind Destiny Dice. Having played against it a lot, like, you can work around it and play around it, and you expect to do it.
But it's visible information.
Yeah,
exactly.
Right.
It's at the beginning of the game I roll 9 dice, and you know I have these 9 dice.
Yeah. I think if you don't know Zinch Army, you don't know what those ones can do. Flipping horrors and that kind of stuff. And that can feel bad. But like once you're used to it, like it's not that bad really.
Yeah. The thing is,
it's good. It's like strong. It's strong, but it's not game ruining strong. But, I feel like that a lot of these mechanics have actually fed into a kind of feel bad vibe around Tzeentch that doesn't exist for Stormcast, even though Stormcast had similar.
I think maybe that was the thing, is like they sort of, if you think about it, at the end of the day, all war games and all Games Workshop games are about, to some extent, chance. And, you know, a very, very good players will, try and entirely control the kind of chance of the game and play only into situations where they have some form of advantage.
Yeah.
Tzeentch's theme, you know, as the great kind of manipulator of fate, is about tweaking chance to your advantage at key points in the game, which is extremely thematic and kind of, you know, if that Chaos God was going to enrage you for any reason, it's kind of why they should piss you off. But it somehow gets to the core of something that everyone wants to kind of, I don't know if maybe it gets to the core of some kind of psychology behind war games. Like, you know, I played X-Wing for a really long time and learned in that time to appreciate what it meant when I got frustrated about my own dice, or what it meant when my opponent got frustrated about their dice, and become far more zen about dice. You know, become kind of to understand that things go both ways. Like, you have hot games, you have hot moments. You are primed to notice the moments when things go well for you. To not notice the moments when things are going well.
Yeah.
And to really notice when it doesn't go well.
Yeah.
And I wonder if you're right that the fact that Tzeentch can manipulate that even just a little bit with the Destiny dice, even though that is perfectly public information, and even though it is itself a dice roll. All it is you roll 9 dice at the beginning of the game, and you get to choose where those dice go, which is very powerful because you can put optimal results in optimal places.
Yeah.
But there's going to be a Tzeentch player in the world who's rolled 9 2s at the beginning of the game and has nothing to do with them. You know, like, they're rubbish. Like, it's still a dice mechanic. If anything, it rewards knowing when those dice are warranted and when they're not, based on the odds of everything else that's happening. Like, even though it allows you to supplant a single dice roll, and appreciate you have to commit them before you roll the dice. So you're not rolling and then substituting. You're saying this matters. Like, I can't take a chance on this.
Yeah.
Like, it rewards really efficient understanding of when is a 4-up not a 4-up, when it potentially implies some other role that's going to be important for you, right? Something like that. Like, that all seems very thematic and appropriate to me, but maybe it's just the fact that you are circumventing the sacred random number generator system, even briefly, creates this sense that it's all nonsense. I don't know.
So there was a moment in this game which we've drifted away from the game itself, but
yeah, of course.
So I got my Sequitors into your general, and they rolled as, you know, had loads of rerolls on their weapons, on their great weapons, and they did like 4 or 5 wounds through, and then you committed like 4 or 5s or something.
I think I committed like almost all of my good Destiny dice. Yeah.
So you just went, all this bosh. He saves all that, and so he's going to stay alive for another round. And it was ultimately inconsequential because
he survived on 1 wound, I think.
Yeah. But it was because like you deployed, I think, 4 Destiny dice to actually ablate wounds, basically. And so if I first started playing and was encountering a Tzeentch army relatively new, that would feel terrible. I didn't really mind, but that would feel terrible because it's like, I've got my charge in, I've done everything. And now just no. Tzeentch says no.
The magic man says no.
The magic says, which is very Tzeentch, right? But also now having played against Tzeentch a lot, I could see you had it and knew that was a possibility at any time. And a lot of playing against Tzeentch is bleeding their Destiny dice. It's like you've got to put them in positions where they have to spend Destiny dice. So that later on in the game, you can actually come back and do stuff.
Spells,
yeah, exactly. Like, by denying them the pool, you've changed a lot about, you've denied Tzeentch a lot of power. And also, I think the other part of it is that, AOS games go to the 5th round. They go all the way to the 5th round every time. And I was feeling really ill. I really didn't want to play the 5th round this time, but we rolled some key rolls to figure out how it played out. And it really was it was in play until the very, very end.
Yeah. And ironically, if I'd had some of those Destiny dice for that 5th round,
some guaranteed run rolls, guaranteed charges, some charge re-rolls would have been massive and might have actually won you the game.
Yeah. I lost this game, to clarify. Sorry,
we did a poor job of describing the blow by blow, but we played it a few weeks ago.
So, yeah.
yeah, it was like Destiny dice are fine. You just have to manage them and also understand that you need to play to the 5th round. You just got to play all the way.
I think that's a good, obviously if people don't play against each a lot, then a lot of this discussion is not going to be mega relevant, but like, I think this is a good attitude to take into AOS generally is that, or any war game, is that there are bullshit things, obviously, and if you're playing against someone who's been maxing, then that's going to happen. But broadly speaking, everything from dice rolls to rules shakes out in the wash. Like, every army has access to powerful stuff. And there's a lot of individual moments in a game where something feels a little bit bad because you're kind of surprised by some powerful interaction. Like, the amount, you spooked me into using all those Destiny dice on defense because I charged my big beefy general in and was about to get annihilated by 3 line troops.
Right.
With a buff on them. Yeah. Right? Like, and not just annihilated, like, he only survived that turn on 1 health, even with all the Destiny dice I was expending. And I only did that in order to potentially allow him to cast again if I got a double, if you didn't get a double turn, which you did. So like, it was a gamble, basically.
Yeah, sure,
a big gamble. And like, the game is full of that stuff. And I think you almost have to kind of go in with this attitude of like, there are some, like, it's a fast-paced game. You're going to get hit as hard as you hit. And if you aren't, like, you have to kind of foster whatever mental state you require in order to be like, okay, cool, that happened. I am about to do something cool back. Rather than, I think there's a mental state, like, I'm losing mental state that kicks in whenever you start to take any losses. It's like, no, we are both losing. Like, that's what I said at the top of this chat, but like, almost a sign of a good game was us both going like, oh fuck, I think I'm losing this.
Oh god.
Yeah, exactly.
How am I going to pull this back?
Yeah.
And no one quite, the game state was always in flux until the final turn, really.
Yeah.
Yeah, damn. It was a good game.
It was a good game. And yeah, I think we'll play another one and then that'll be the scene set for a big smash up in Cardiff.
Yeah.
It's very exciting.
And we're hoping to, as Chris said earlier, just tie some exciting and hopefully like just simple enough rules to games around us so that, your games will affect our game and we'll sort of come to a head in our grand story.
The idea is that it might be impossible for me and Tom's game to end.
Yes.
Until the results of those other games are established.
I mean, that does make it impossible because we're going to be fielding very large armies.
Yeah.
And
but this is going to be an all day thing.
It's going to be, it will, but we've only got like so many hours, like however many hours this place is.
About 8 to 10.
8
we'll be
to
okay.
10. Okay.
Yeah, we'll be okay, Tom. We'll be okay.
We'll do it.
We're going to have rules, for example, like, one of the side battles is going to take place for the fate of the Stormkeep that is being used to channel souls back to Azir from the central game.
Yeah.
So if it falls, Tom loses his reinforcements.
So
which is huge.
I can't bring my dudes back. I can't keep
But otherwise you can bring them back all the time.
Yeah. So the way we're leaning at the moment and probably the way we're going to go is that, your victories and, will switch off abilities for our armies as we're in this kind of attritional titanic scrap in the middle of the field. And so hopefully your results turn to turn will matter and, affect our game.
So an equivalent for that for me, which I'm considering, although we have to consider the balance of this because it's nuts, is that at the beginning of the game, so Tzeentch gains a fate point, which is used to summon demons every time a spell is cast on the battlefield, friend or foe. At the beginning of our game, in addition, so Tom will get his infinite reinforcements from the Stormkeep. There'll be some other scenario or scenarios that affect the fact that I gain fate points from every game that's being played, not just ours.
Yeah.
So all of the magic everywhere is creating resources for me. Yeah. So I'm going to probably ask every player to like report a tally every turn of how many spells have been cast, which it's as nuts as the Stormcast coming back constantly, right? Like it'll just be complete, and it'll mean that my army slowly gets replaced with demons, basically. Yeah. Which is very thematic. But if that gets switched off, suddenly I'm in the shit. So that's the idea, and I hope it'll be really fun, and that'll basically furnish us a really mad battle report.
Yeah. The ultimate. So we haven't had like a full proper battle report this episode, but the next one is going to be wow. It's going to be the biggest battle report. It's going to be, and that's going to be thanks to
because you and I are going to be playing like about a 4,000 point game of AOS.
We're going to put everything down, Chris.
Yeah.
I'm putting fucking everything down. You better realise the Star Drake's in there, the Prime's in there. my infantry's in there. I want to get my evocators painted then, just so they could be on the field with my sequitors.
Yeah.
It's going to be great.
It's going to be great.
It's going to be amazing.
I'm really looking forward to Cardiff. Yeah. So if you, on that note, before we move on to questions, if you are interested in, attending our meetup in Cardiff on the weekend of the 17th, 18th of November, I believe I'm getting that right. And if I'm getting it wrong, it's the one that's closest to that. Then, please do email us at events@crateandcrowbar.com. There are, I think, limited spaces available. I've just gotten back from America, and I'm going to be, confirming places and so on, very soon. Pretty much everyone who's already emailed has a space, but we're approaching our limit of 40 people. So, which is great.
Yeah, it's incredible.
If you are interested, additionally, obviously we are supporting everything from X-Wing to Adeptus Titanicus to 40k to Kill Team, whatever you want to play. We have the space for everything. But, if you're interested particularly in playing in this narrative game, then in addition to just emailing to register your interest, it's worth also letting me know what kind of army you're planning on bringing, the faction and the points value or skirmish, etc., because we are matching things up along those lines. And the good thing so far is we are in a position where I think we have an order army for every other kind of army. So it's probably going to be everybody versus order.
Yes, that's perfect.
Yeah, but so we're going to have some fun scenarios. So it may be that Stormkeep is not under siege from another Chaos army, but from a marauding Orc War that happens to have been redirected into it by the machinations of the Master of Fate. Which is going to be really fun.
That's rad.
Yeah.
Though I guess if people are going along in pairs and they just want to play it amongst themselves, absolutely completely fine as well.
Seriously, no, this is not mandatory. This is just a huge folly.
Yeah, it's going to be it's going to be so much fun. And it's in Cardiff. Cardiff's an awesome city, and there's going to be, we don't have podcast plans, but we're going to do socials and we'll be hanging out.
There'll be a social on a Saturday night, and Firestorm, the venue, has a bar, and food facilities and a big shop. So we're going to be, it's basically just a big hangout. Really.
Yeah, totally. And, Chris, I'll be around for the whole weekend, just so please come up and say hello, because y'all are awesome. And it's been super lovely doing this podcast and seeing the community that sprung up around it.
Aw, that was the most outro style intro to the questions section.
Yeah, we still got some stuff left, so, bring it.
All right. Shall we do some questions?
Yeah, go on then.
All right. Our first question comes from Alex, who writes, hello, Chris of Change and Tom of Iron. Allegedly, though probably apocryphal, Angron is named after Angry Ron, a Nottingham bouncer who was reportedly quite fierce. Is that true?
I doubt it, but it's a great story.
What is known is that when GW were designing the original epic, they ran out of resources to be able to put the planned Eldar miniatures in. Instead, they came up with the idea of a civil war, letting them simply double the existing Imperium miniatures. This led to the creation of the Horus Heresy, something which has defined 40k ever since. So the question is, what's your favorite case where real life has seeped into Warhammer? And that's from Alex. It's a good question. Is it a question we have an answer for after this much quite high proof whiskey?
I'm not sure.
It's kind of the inverse of this, but I really like that, when they called things Land Raiders and Land Speeders, they were obviously thinking about the concept of the land, the ground that people stand on. But they decided subsequently, that was too terrestrial, too much of the real world. And so instead, those are standard template construct patterns created by a man called Mr. Land.
Oh, yeah.
which is the best reverse, backing out of the fact that this is obviously a terrestrial thing.
Mr. Land. I want to see a There Will Be Blood style film about Mr. Land and his ambitions and conquests.
I think, there's so much of this in Warhammer, 'cause so much of it is just, bad Latin, right?
Yeah, so I think they call it, it's either I think they call it High Gothic in the fiction, which is just, bastardized Latin. But isn't that quite themey? It's the idea that you've got a very corrupt society that doesn't understand its own past. And therefore, they
reclaim a dead language from even longer below.
Yeah, and sort of everything they bring back from the past to form their
That's
modern
a good
identity
point.
is corrupted.
It shouldn't be High Gothic. It should be like heavily corrupted, like Mandarin, or like heavily corrupted English.
Yes,
really.
yes, it should, yeah.
Like Ferrus Manus, as stupid as that name is, his name should be like Iano Handus.
It's like a Spider-Man villain. Yeah, you're right. But I think there's something very pretentious about the Imperium as well.
There is, yeah.
And I think that, incompetent pretentiousness is a very good, a very telling feature of the Imperium. So, resurrecting Latin but badly is like the most Imperium thing that they could do.
I mean, like the Adeptus Arbites, who are the police, are basically just Judge Dredd. So that's like, that is a thing that's quasi from real life, as in a different fiction being imported sideways into
That is true.
Warhammer.
Yeah.
Trying to think if there's anything literally real. I suppose that's, some of the things they got rid of going into AOS, but like, the Bretonnians. It's just medieval French people.
Arthurian.
Like,
yeah, straight up. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a lady in the lake, the whole fucking shebang. Yeah.
Yeah, the whole shebang. Mallory too, the whole shebang. Good. Yeah. Do you have anything else thoughts on things that have been transferred sideways?
Not yet, but there's still time.
Okay. Next question comes from Harry, who writes, Dear Hubris Bird and Lightning Man, if the Spice Girls were transported into the grim darkness of the 41st millennium,
Yeah. Okay.
which
I like
chaos
where
god
this is
would they each fall to?
Oh, this is
And which one
good.
would remain loyal to the God Emperor? Thanks to the great pod, it's excellent to paint to.
Please.
This is a
read
very good question.
Please read this question from, the start again. Not from the bird thing, but from the
If
actual
the Spice Girls were transported into the grim darkness of the 41st millennium, which chaos god would they each fall to, and which one would remain loyal to the God Emperor?
question. Good question.
It is such a good question.
Fuck.
So I think it's kind of complicated because the obvious answers are like sporty to Khorne. I think baby to Nurgle.
Baby to...
The complacency of a baby. The entropic sort of...
What's the inherently diseased
Well, because it's
nature
also about
of,
the cycle of life, right? And regrowth.
So, yeah, the baby is a growth of sort of tumescent
Exactly,
growth.
yeah, exactly. Like a kind of ever-recurring baby state personified by the god of decay. I think Posh is Zinch.
Slanesh.
Maybe, but I think, hang on, who are we missing? Posh, baby, sporty, Ginger.
So Ginger's loyal to the God Emperor.
Yeah, Ginger is clearly loyal to the God Emperor.
Yeah. She's fine.
Who are we missing? Scary. Ooh.
I think Scary's Khorne, right?
Yeah, but where does that put sporty?
Well, it does it, but it's called sporty. Can we put two Spice Girls in the same category?
Could we put, yeah. Christ. What the fuck were they thinking? Sorry, that was the
Spice Girls?
Yeah. What a weird cultural moment that was.
Yeah.
Anyway, back to Warhammer.
I mean, it was a weird cultural moment, yeah. Yeah, that kind of pre-crash world of, hedonistic pop
Yeah.
is
Actually,
so alien now.
Yeah, maybe put this a different way. So I think we end up arguing either, I think I'll probably go with Ginger, God Emperor, Sporty, Khorne, and say that I think Scary remains a kind of, problematic remnant of that particular era of British pop.
Yep.
But the whole apparatus ends up being an engine to create Slanesh in the manner of the Fall of the Elder.
Yeah, all right with that, definitely.
Okay, good.
For sure.
What a great question. Good job, Harry. Next one comes from James, who writes, picture. I've recently noted that my penchant for more exotic models, namely putting together a Sisters of Silence army with kick bashes pulled from the Horus Heresy army list that have no models, a few resin bits, a Forge World tank with no 40k rules, and genuine attitude of, well, I think this is cool, has led me to an extremely uncomfortable position. I think I'm a Warhammer hipster. Yes, I brought a narrative-based army to a tournament. Yes, I have an army with ostensibly no rules, waiting on Forge World to do something. Yes, I pull bits of lore from barely updated Lexicanum pages to justify why I'm doing things. Oh no! Save me from my quest to be an individual among the rank and file. What's the most Warhammer hipster thing you have done as part of this lovely, that's me, not him, lovely hobby? That's from James, who's James Alone on Discord, and a picture of his wonky army, his lovely looking wonky army, from Role Models Rollout 2 is included. And very nice it is indeed.
Yeah, it's gorgeous. I love the Sisters Silence Transport.
Yeah, the
Forge World one.
Big old suppository tank.
Yeah, so good. Beautifully painted there as well. Lovely. I love that kind of, this is a terrible podcast because no one could see this, but there's a beautiful sort of dirtied bronze sheen to the model that here that looks absolutely gorgeous.
Yeah,
and
very,
good job.
very nice.
That's
good,
rad.
Good job. I mean, probably the most Warhammer hipster thing I have done is run Tzeentch Demons when everyone's running Tzeentch.
I think your whole Tzeentch sitch has been, had hipster overtones to an extent. Yeah. And not through any sort of
No, I think that's fair.
I don't know about, my own hipster tendencies, really.
Maybe you hipstered yourself when you did Iron Hands when you wanted to do Crimson Fists.
I think that's what happened. I should have just gone with my heart.
Yeah.
I should have just painted some Crimson Fists. Actually, I do look up at my, I've got my little squad of Iron Hands. I do look up at them and it's quite pleased with the way they're painted. Quite pleased with the line work on the edge highlighting, which is, a challenge for
I just realised my most hipster thing has to be finding the 7-stage process of painting red on my Thousand Suns.
Yeah,
that is the most unnecessary thing I have ever done.
No, but I think that was, so the purpose of that was to achieve a cool effect that you're happy with. And I don't think it was to make them, subversively different or make a statement with them. I think you were just trying to get a nice effect. Maybe not though. Yeah,
that's reasonable. Although I also didn't want to do the Blood Angels red that everyone else was doing. So there is that.
There is that, I suppose.
Yeah. It's wall to wall anti-populist decisions for me, I'm afraid. Trying to think if there's anything you've done. You have a commitment to the Vanguard that is beyond the norm.
Yeah, I keep trying to make them happen in games for sure. And part of that is because I think my Hunters are some of the best ones I've painted, and my Vanguard Paladors, who are the Chicken Riders, are some of the best models I've painted. Yeah. So I just want to run them because they look rad. and
that is reasonable.
Which is reasonable in this hobby. But the Hunters, I don't think have enough going on to be worthwhile. I think the Paladors do, but I just don't know.
Yeah, I don't think you have really fallen into that trap much, I don't think. Maybe your commitment to the Sepulchral Guard.
Oh, that's as close as it gets, really. Yeah. It's just no one else is running this, so I'm going to run it relentlessly.
It doesn't work.
It doesn't work. But at least I did what I wanted.
Yeah. I know that feel. Our next question comes from, successive 19 for 19 question champion, Pete Fienia from Discord, who writes, hello, Iron Toms and Thurston Sons, which is pretty good. This month I wonder, do either of you have any big hobby regrets? My main one is getting back into Warhammer Fantasy Battle 6 months before AOS, leading to rebasing a lot of small plastic rats. But there are other things like colour scheme choices that can sometimes leave a hobbyist thinking, if only I'd known. Love the pod, Pete/Fienia.
Hobby regrets.
I think in hindsight, regret buying the Dark Imperium core set. I think that was a sort of an of the moment kind of this is the thing. And the more time that passes, the less interested in kind of 40k as a main battle game I become. And while I don't mind having some Space Marines around, I did sell my Death Guard to Fee, who wrote this question. And so I feel of all of the splashy purchases I've made since getting back into the hobby, that's the one that I could undo and feel no different.
Yes.
Basically.
So I swapped my Death Guard half of the Imperium core set with Chimp, and he gave me his half of the AOS second edition core set for Stormcast. So I've doubled up on my Stormcast. So ultimately through trading, I think I've gotten value out of the Dark Imperium box. And actually, weirdly, the thing I love most about that is the book. I still look at the book, and that thing is
the book is
fucking
great.
beautiful.
I don't regret the book. That's true.
So the book's £35, so yeah. If I'd have bought that.
Yeah, muchness, yeah.
So I've still got some Space Marines. I still feel the urge to paint Space Marines every now and then.
Yeah. Who doesn't?
yeah, I think it's just a natural part of the hobby. But yeah, you're right. That is, I just think I've not had a good game of 8th edition 40k. Like a really good one. It's all been fairly, straightforward stuff with the core set armies, which are not very exciting. But yeah. That's a good shout.
It is a good shout. Trying to think. I don't think I fully, regret anything. Sorry, I didn't realize you were reaching tentatively for the whiskey. I don't think I fully regret anything else, to be honest. Not without getting to the territory of do I regret all of this? Well, let's not stare down that barrel. It's gone midnight. That is a cork coming out of a
Sorry about that.
Bottle of very strong whiskey, in case you were wondering, podcast that we're recording. Our next question comes from my friend Greg, X-Wing friend Greg, who's not written into the podcast before. Hello, Greg. He writes, "Hi guys. Did you know that goat men are excellent and apparently angry? I knew this when I was small and the new models came out, but I was deep in the clutches of gribbly things from space. This week, I was in Games Workshop buying paints for D&D purposes, and would you know it, those exact same models have now been repackaged with actually good rules and stuff." He's referring to Beasts of Chaos. Alas, other than knowing a few people in my local wargames community, I know nothing about getting back into the hobby. What would you be recommendation for jumping back in, other than blindly planning and buying 2,000 points of angry goats without really understanding the rules and so forth? Obviously, start collecting is a help, but the fact that Beastmen want a herdstone, plus the fact that Beastmen do want a herdstone, I guess I'm asking more to find out what's good and how many goatee boys I need before I can start playing games in earnest. Thanks, Greg. So I think, as we've maybe mentioned already on this podcast, one of the strengths of AOS is you can play with a relatively small number of models and get a feel for things.
It is a skirmish game.
It is a skirmish game.
That is hot.
And I think as long as you are up for it depends obviously what you want to play. If you want to win tournaments, that is a very different thing to, do you want to throw some goats at your friend in a fun way? And I'm very much a proponent of, cause I know the questioner, so there's a sort of element of trying to intuit attitude here. Don't embark on your first 1,000 to 2,000 points of goats expecting X-Wing levels of kind of competitive finesse. Expect a degree of wargame kind of just stuff happen. Maybe just stuff happen, and that's fine. But they are pretty competitive. I think they're pretty good. I would say, start collecting box, although already mentioned, is a very good place to start because it will give you everything for basically about a 500 point army and skirmish easily. Very much easily skirmish. Plenty even. I'd say building towards the kind of 1,000 points that we've been describing, where you have maybe one. I know that the start collecting, beast box comes with a Gorgon or Sigor, which are definitely a Behemoth, but they fit into you can have a Behemoth if it isn't a hero category of good 1,000 point games. I'd say start collecting plus a few boxes of the stuff you genuinely like and are excited to paint, which is the most important thing. Yeah. If you have a nicely rounded 1,000 point army that looks like an army, and you can take to a bunch of games in different contexts, I'll give you a game. That's a fun place to start, basically. And then, in terms of what's actually good, I don't know. I really don't think AOS is about that. I think it's about
fluctuates so quickly, and the time and money investment involved in getting an army together means that we've said this over and over again, but just unless you're super, super into the competitive scene, just don't chase it. Because at the moment it's Swords of Khaine, but 2 months time it might not be. It's that quick. It really could change on an FAQ or a points rebalance.
And the investment of time, if you love goats, just embrace that.
Just go goats. Just go all in on the goats.
And they're
not bad though. They seem
good. Yeah. And I think it's the definition of very much the journey, not the destination. So it's I would say, and I appreciate this advice has been extremely vague, I would say buying the book is not a bad place to start. It's a 25 quid outlay, which is not insignificant, but it allows you to read through and just sort of try and parse what you find interesting about the rules that are there. And there will inevitably be, with a lack of experience at the game, combos that you miss and kind of mad ally potential that you maybe not paying attention to. And there are forums and things you can read if that's what you care about. But broadly speaking, it will give you, obviously the rules are available for free, but it'll give you the kind of holistic view of actually, this is my first rung on the ladder. I want to maximize this particular rule, particularly with Beastmen, where there are multiple different sub-armies within Beastmen, like Thunderscorn and Brayherd. And so that might be the first interesting place to start, is identify which of those do you find most interesting from a rules point of view.
Yeah.
And then do the window shopping, which is the most fun part of any Warhammer army.
Oh, yeah.
Like mock up that first 1,000 points. Does it make sense? Does it make sense financially? Does it make sense in terms of what you're actually interested in painting? If it doesn't, start again. And just repeat that process until you have a kind of roadmap to that first 1,000 points. And I think that's it, basically.
Yeah, for sure.
Then you got it. Cool. The next question comes from Andrew, who writes, "Hello, plastic people. The teaser for Wrath and Rapture got me wondering what hobby-related activities you've done that would please the Chaos Gods. Have you ever had an X-Acto knife slip? That was for Khorne, unless it got infected, in which case you're Nurgle now. Ever converted a mini? All part of Tzeentch's plan. But what about sensations that would get Slaanesh all hot and bothered?" Which is a kind of weird avenue to explore. Am I the only one to find peeling dried paint off the lids of Citadel pots immensely satisfying?
Oh no, I hate that
Is
shit.
Null Noil secretly delicious? Exactly how long have you spent looking at Tom's horse's arse? Keep up the excellent podding. It's the reason I got into the hobby, and I'm having a blast. That's Andrew, who's
awesome.
Fluid Druid from Discord. Thank you very much.
Yeah, that's right.
I've never drawn blood through hobby.
Not yet.
No. Okay. Sorry, like
Oh, I didn't mean
Tom
that
said
to be
immediately
a
before.
threat.
That sounded a lot like a threat, Tom.
No, regarding myself, I've not drawn blood yet. I'm not a big conversion. I feel always too nervous to chop into my models, you know.
I suck at it as well. Let's think. I think I've expressed a lot of excess generally through simply sort of expenditure and time.
Yeah, I mean, that's, fair enough.
Yeah, that's
We both
a
have.
bit of a
We
cop
both
out.
have, yeah.
Yeah, I got quite cold at the conservatory one time while painting and got a cold. Does that count as worshipping Nurgle?
Got ill.
Yeah, a little bit.
Do Warhammer. Excess, I don't know. It's all kind of excess, it feels.
Isn't it, at the end of the day?
Yeah. You know?
Yeah.
But really when you could be doing almost anything else. But that's kind of the fun of it for me, is how kind of, so I'm painting this meticulously molded, beautiful little piece of art and trying to make it okay. And I'm going to spend like 3 or 4 hours here doing it while listening to podcasts. I know there's a lot of excess involved in that.
Yeah, weirdly,
that scene.
I think maybe though, because I find like miniatures painting and hobby stuff to genuinely be a mindfulness thing that I found very helpful in terms of, you know, it is a thing I do to calm myself down.
I've definitely enjoyed
it
that
does
as
play
well.
against the Chaos Gods somewhat by its nature.
Yeah, it's anti-chaos in a way, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's pure order, I'm afraid.
Yeah, it is about adding order to this pile of things you've bought.
Yeah.
It's about destroying chaos, if anything.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, unless you are the kind of person who doesn't paint anything ever and just sort of plays with bases, not models.
In which case you are a Korgorath.
As far as we're concerned.
Pure chaos monster.
Yeah.
And by which I mean, enjoy your hobby however you want to.
Good. Our next question comes from Kingsley, who writes, "Hi Chris and Tom, I've been alternating between reading Horus Heresy books and classic literature that I've missed. Last month I got into the accidental pairing of Fulgrim and The Picture of Dorian Gray, both clearly hedonistic favourites of Slaanesh. What do you think the other Warhammer deities are reading? Cheers, Kingsley."
Oh.
I think Khorne is reading The Tiger That Came to Tea. Or any other children's book about an animal powered by pure id. Like Winnie the Pooh.
Probably wrote it.
Yeah, exactly.
Winnie the Pooh.
Like, he can't read very well.
I think Winnie the Pooh is a Slaanesh,
and there's a lot of excess in Winnie the Pooh, I suppose.
It's just pure, just getting your paw into a pot full of just the sweetest,
He's stuck in the
most
honey.
unctuous, physically
Unctuous is very
rewarding.
But it's not the Thousand Acre Wood in some way a kind of prefiguring of the Garden
Winnie
of
the
Nurgle.
Pooh is pure Slaanesh. That's what I'm saying on this podcast.
Yeah, that hedonistic fucking honey bear.
Absolutely. And,
Christopher Robin is the Fulgrim of...
Tigger is Khorne. Just the kind of...
Hang on, we're not mapping Thousand Acre Wood.
No, this is a different question.
Like, Eeyore is Nurgle.
I think slow, miserable, but ultimately wins. Nurgle's more jolly than Eeyore. That's the trouble.
That's true, yeah. Rue is Tzeentch. I don't think.
Who Tigger is Tzeentch?
Yeah, Christopher Robin is the God Emperor.
Yeah.
Is the anathema.
Absolutely, yeah.
That is the plot, as far as I can tell, of the most recent Christopher Robin film.
I've not seen it.
Let's think. We've gotten wildly off track.
Yeah, what's the
already? It was books that the different gods read.
Oh.
Let me think. I think, well, Nagash possibly just reads White Wolf source books over and over again.
Just for
Vampire the Masquerade, Mage,
just for
Werewolf.
Just for inspiration.
Yeah.
Just for dress sense.
Big hats, bigger plans.
I think, I feel like Sigmar reads a lot of Famous Five. I think there's a sort of,
There's always a dog for one thing.
There's a kind of orders to the world, this sort of sense of moral righteousness, underlying the.
Yeah. You vanquish some smugglers.
Yeah, you vanquish, you sent some doggos.
Yeah, there's always a dog, there's always
to die.
There's always ginger beer.
Yeah, there's always ginger beer. I feel like there's something kind of righteous about that. Enid Blyton always feels kind of moralistic to me, like, there's a kind of certainty to the world.
Zinch reads Peter Rabbit.
Okay.
Like, full on Beatrix Potter. Because it really is about like how the best laid plans of men come fatefully awry, thanks to the ambitions of creeping forces beyond man's control. Okay. Like, the animals in the garden. Like, Farmer McGregor's got some ambition for what he would like to achieve with his life.
With vegetables.
But he's fucked. And he's fucked from the beginning in a kind of cosmic sense.
Yeah.
Because of the machinations of this rabbit. Basically.
They're always going to get his vegetables.
They are. Yeah, in the end.
As the Chaos Gods, as the Chaos Gods do.
They're always going to get your vegetables.
The Chaos Gods are always going to get your vegetables. That's what's going to happen. Just got to get used to that.
Yeah. We're basically just gone fully on to children's literature here rather than.
Yeah, again, we're answering a different question.
Yeah, to the one that was asked. Because there's too many books broadly. And I mean that in a very literal sense, no. Let's think. So hang on, we answered all of them?
I don't think we've done Slanesh properly.
It was Winnie the Pooh.
Oh yeah, it was.
Corn is...
I stick by that.
Yeah, Corn, I'm sticking by Tiger Came to Tea for Corn.
Yep.
Nurgle. What is the children's book that really expresses decay? And the end of things? But the inevitable regrowth and rebirth of things.
There are so many.
Chronicles of Narnia?
Sorry.
Chronicles of Narnia? No. There's a finality to that.
Yeah, it's also, I don't know.
It is also, it's pretty explicit which god reads those books.
Yeah.
Let's think. There aren't very many children's books there's gotta be some real dull here, surely.
Oh, the twits would be a good... So, Nurgle's sense of mischief maps very well onto the twits. But there's nothing about the twits that actually taps into
How about Stick of the Dump as a kind of,
sure.
demon prince of Nurgle?
Yeah, maybe that was like a demon link.
Yeah, exactly.
Making windows out of jam jars.
Yeah.
Pissing on himself.
It's another fine day in the garden of Nurgle.
That's Nurgle.
Good. I think we've cracked that one.
Good.
John writes, Dear Skull, Crissa, Brass, and Tompelgard Blue, which is very good.
Good colour.
I provided 2 questions. I'm going to read one of them, which is this. Mixing it up from the Primarch questions, which Age of Sigmar god matches the characters from Friends? Nagash is clearly Ross. Because nobody likes him. Which is very true.
Yeah, okay.
Keep up the good miniaturing, John, who's Wham Badger from Twitter and Discord, etc.
Ross is kind of Nagash, actually. Now I thought about that for a minute.
Heavily concerned with skeletons.
Yeah. Quite a fragile, sensitive ego as well. That
I think Rachel is Sigmar.
Is Rachel is Sigmar?
Nagash secretly in love with him. And kind of like, just the kind of, excellent hair. This is also true of Sigmar.
He does have excellent hair. He's got excellent straighteners.
Yeah. Yeah, that's it. That's all I've got. I think Joey is Gorka Morka.
Pure id.
Pure id.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I think, Monica, Phoebe is Alariel.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I can buy that. Monica is like order but too much, right? Like,
Morathi.
Is she?
Maybe.
That's too
Malarian.
chaotic. Like, she would be
Tyrion? Teclis? Teclis. Maybe Teclis?
Teclis is more like it. I think she would control her minions, I think, and shape them in the image that she wanted.
Teclis then.
To make them correct and proper and in the right
she would
place.
abandon the first generation that spoiled millions to the bottom of the ocean.
Drop them in moments. Yeah, so okay, Monica's Teclis, that's
Teclis, good. Okay. Phoebe's Ilariel, I think. Chandler. Who's the Chandler Bing of chaos,
the kind of
Age of
like
Sigmar gods?
Mischief god, I suppose, of, just constant bants, just endless, constant
kind of gurning.
I don't give a shit bants.
Yeah, there isn't.
Doesn't it really ever care about?
We're stuck within the traditional like non-chaos pantheon for this, and I don't think Chandler maps onto any of the chaos pantheon.
No, he's too shallow.
He's too shallow. Yeah, that's kind of weird.
Like he's almost like I don't know. He's actually the Harlequins have more going for them than this 40k thing anyway. But like, even they are like they have deep cultural reasons for doing what they're doing.
Yeah,
and Chandler has literally no like. Who
the hell is he? There's no like. Who's the god that's just sort of there? Like,
but just quipping and just kind of like trying to be liked. He wouldn't be a god. He would be someone like one of the von Carsteins from.
Yeah.
He would be like a kind of joker on the fringes trying to survive. So he would be probably like Manfred or someone. Like, he wouldn't be a god. They don't all have to be gods.
No, but that was the premise of the question.
But let's relegate Chandler.
Like, I'm thinking, I was just trying to figure out if there's any of the like dwarven gods that fit this, like Grungni or Grimnir. Like,
Too proud.
They
also they stand for things, right?
Grungni's sort of like shamed and quietly competent, which doesn't quite fit.
Yeah. And the other one is exploded into a billion pieces.
He's exploded while fighting a big salamander.
He did do that. Like, Chandler would never do.
Exactly.
The thing is like Chandler is like,
no, I've just fucking figured it out.
Oh.
Grungni is Gunther.
Oh.
From the coffee shop.
I don't even know who that is.
The guy who runs the coffee shop.
Oh, right, okay.
Yeah, that's Grungni.
What, the angry manager, man?
Yeah.
Okay,
that's
that's
Grungni.
Yeah, sure.
So you're right, there is no Chandler in this, really.
Just Chandler's Chandler can't be mapped onto a god because he doesn't stand for anything.
Unlike the others, which have some sort of primordial, like...
something going on.
Primeval power, yeah.
Get your shit together, Chandler.
Yeah, come on, Chandler.
Come on.
Like, is there even like a demigod that fits that?
It's because he's ineffectual. He doesn't affect anything. God's got to affect stuff.
Yeah.
That's the trouble. He's always there on the sidelines, quipping about the things that happen and never affecting them. Fuck Chandler.
Could he map onto like? I'm just thinking because what is Chandler's defining characteristics other than all of that? It's like Chandler likes Monica. So who likes Teclis?
No one likes Teclis.
Marathi does a bit. No, she likes Tyrion.
Yeah. Look, Teclis is one of the biggest fuck-ups in the whole Warhammer universe, because particularly in the end times,
it's
an extremely ill-judged spells and maneuvers and kind of attempts to solve.
It is all fucking Teclis' fault.
Yeah, but ultimately, it's all a lot of.
We could, I think, maybe if we had to map them all, we could make Chandler Teclis and make Monica Malerian, like Malekith.
That's such a squeeze.
It is a squeeze. It's more of a squeeze than the other way around.
I think the interesting thing we've exposed is that some of the Friends characters are ripe for godhood.
I think Chandler is like fucking Thankwall. He's like Queek or one of the kind of like Skaven characters that doesn't really achieve much.
Yeah. I almost credited him with the Horned Rat, but the Horned Rat is far too competent for Chandler to actually occupy that. But but I think there are two tiers of Friends characters, and some of them are god-worthy, and Chandler is not. Those are the two tiers.
I think this might be the most vitriol I've ever heard you express for anything. And it's the character of Chandler. I
think I watched again about 6 months ago, and man, that show has not aged well.
No, it hasn't at all.
It really has not aged well. But, oh well.
But anyway, thank you for the question. Our final question comes from Dines Tom, who writes, Dear Curse and Tome, prompted by a recent discussion, please describe the Space Marine legions. This is complicated and we might not be able to do it, but I wanted to read it. As stages and or elements of childhood from the perspective of their Primarch dads.
Oh my god.
And I just wanted to congratulate you on finding this kind of crazy, like, meta Primarch question.
Yeah.
Like, we can map them onto Spice Girls all day long.
Though we kind of can't.
Like, so I'm taking this as like, Space Wolves are like terrible twos.
Right. Oh,
Right?
I see. Right.
Like,
right,
Thousand
right.
Suns are like, sort of bookish mid-teens.
Oh, we should point out that neither of us are dads as far as we know.
No. But we've all been children.
But even then, I think like, until you've seen it from the other side, the phases perhaps might not be terribly apparent.
Yeah, that's true.
But we can try.
Yeah, I think Dark Angels, I think it's really easy to map Dark Angel Thousand Suns onto a particular phase of adolescence. Right? I think the kind of crafty legions like Iron Hands, Iron Warriors map onto that kind of creative but very determined phase of late childhood where you're like, I'm going to build some Lego now and it's all I know. I'm just building this. I think Blood Angels, very emotional. Babies?
Are babies very emotional? That's an interesting question.
They certainly express something, like wailing constantly.
Well, they express urges, the things they want, but I think emotion is.
I think the Space Wolves are toddlers. Like
Space Wolves.
Yeah, toddlers.
Yeah. So yeah,
I
toddlers.
want this. I will go get this.
Yeah. That makes sense. Well, I think Blood Angels shifts way up into like teens, mid-teens, probably like.
Yeah,
15,
maybe you're in that bracket as well. So does so do Raven Guard and Night Legion.
All the emo ones, really.
Yeah, all the emo ones kind of map really cleanly onto like
14.
I feel like
17, whatever.
I feel like Ultramarines map onto early sort of like early teens, like 12, 13, when you're like Ultramarines, no, even younger than that. Ultramarines map clearly onto being about 11 and being the oldest kids in primary school, where you can boss around the smaller children, but right before you journey into real school, where you're now the smallest, shittest child again.
Yeah.
That's where Ultramarines fit.
Interesting.
White Scars are just that kid that wants to ride around in circles in a BMX all day.
Look,
which is a stage of adolescence that can add for any number of years. Like,
I've enjoyed that urge.
Yeah.
I don't know about Ultramarines. I don't think that Ultramarines map onto a childhood stage unless, apart from in the most authoritarian environment that you exist in.
I don't know. There's like a teacher's pet form of child.
There is a type of person who, like, there are people who just really happy to just be good at following instructions, and that's certainly the Ultramarine type. But I don't know, like, if you can attribute that to any particular age. Like, that could happen at any time. You could become an Ultramarine at any time. I
don't know. I do associate it with, like, kids that haven't quite experienced the full kind of terrors of puberty yet, but believe themselves to be good. Like, I think that's why I'm identifying that kind of age 11, 12 kind of thing quite so specifically.
So they'd wish to be Gryffindor.
Like natural Gryffindors.
Natural Gryffindor. So they'd watch Harry Potter and they'd have a dream, and in the dream they'd become Gryffindor, and then they're the Ultramarine kids. So yeah, cool.
I think Imperial Fist are just full on weirdos. Like, I'm going to defend this treehouse to the death. That's like the neighbor kid that builds like a big sandcastle in his back garden and will fight any animal that comes close to it. Yeah, exactly.
People who, you see a lot of very, very intense youngsters, but
Emperor's children get violin lessons from a very early age.
But I think like
they're very pushy parents, I suspect.
That's the thing. So I think there's almost an Ultramarine aspect to that. So
it's close.
There's definitely an archetype of people who, parents get them learning instruments at an extremely early age, and they learn and become amazing. But that's just like, they have to sacrifice so much. I think
the difference there is, I think Ultramarines are sort of, encouraged to do lots of activities over the summer, like Cub Scouts and stuff like that, but ultimately go to school and become head prefect. Whereas I think Emperor's children are homeschooled.
No, this is a good analogy. Have some suddenly they'll be completely normal for 90% of the conversation.
They emerge into secondary school perhaps, but with fabulous hair,
and they'll fit in 90% of the time, but 10% of the time they'll be like,
Not at all.
What?
Yeah, exactly.
Say, what do you want to do with your armor?
Yeah.
Purple and gold?
What kind of children are the Death Guard?
What, the special forces children who are
No, I
merged
mean
into
that's in
super
the
study
Nurgle,
groups?
future Nurgle, not Death Watch, Death Guard.
Oh, Death Guard, sorry.
Yeah, no, I think there are only Death Watch children, where you take one child from every different. No, that's the Breakfast Club.
That'd be so
the
good.
Breakfast
Yeah,
Club is
yeah,
the
yeah,
Death
yeah.
Watch of teenagers.
Yeah, it is,
That's
That is absolutely correct.
yeah, exactly.
That's really, really true.
No, I mean the Death Guard.
Oh, the Death Guard.
Are they those like very, very durable toddlers? Like that could sort of just, kind of like bully their way through any given sandpit.
No, I mean, I'd expect the Death Guard to be infected with something at all times.
Yeah,
and
the
there are
sniffly
children like that.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
And there are children who always have something but never don't die. They just keep on going. And so there are like little snotty Death Guard.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, you're right.
It's just, that is an archetype.
Are we missing any legions?
I think we've done, enough. That's what I would say.
I think we've done more than enough.
We've probably insulted a lot of children.
It's 1:20 in the morning, Tom.
I know.
We podcasted for a long time.
Yeah, we did this on a weeknight, which we don't normally do.
Yeah.
And, also drank some whiskey, so.
Yeah, it's good whiskey though.
Yeah,
Thanks,
it's delicious.
Nation of Wales. If you'd like to send us a question for future nonsense that we do, you can do so by emailing us at miniatures@crateandcrowbar.com. And again, if you're interested in attending our event in November, your last chance to do so involves emailing us at events@crateandcrowbar.com. Please do email that address. I appreciate you might get replies from a different address, but that is how we keep track of the emails. So if you don't send it to that, we probably won't notice. Sorry. If you would like to follow Miniatures Monthly on Twitter, you can do so at Miniatures Monthly. Oh, sorry, no, you don't do that. It's Minis Monthly. That's the correct address. I've said it now. And thanks as ever to our Patreon backers who, in supporting the main Crate and Crowbar podcast, support this and other spin-offs. Tom, how can people find you online on the web?
The best place is on Instagram, and I'm on there as Ludo Paints Minis, and Ludo is spelt.
We are both spent, yeah.
Ludo Paints Minis.
And I can be found on Instagram at Exit Warp, which is EXITWARP. Thanks for listening to this longer than expected Megapod. And see you next month.
See you next month.